This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Well, good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the entire state of confusion. This is Alex, co-host, Liberty Underground, along with me, Duchess of Doing Stuff, my own personal Wikipedia, Tallahassee's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandra. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing good?
I am. I'm doing good.
It's good you're doing good. Also in studio is the Prime Minister of all the things that in the world are considered sinister. Like if there's a vote and something's considered sinister, then Greg Bowen, how are you doing, sir?
Spectacular.
Not fabulous.
Not fabulous.
Just spectacular.
Just spectacular. I could be fabulous today. I'll be fabulous.
You'll be fabulous today?
I'll be fabulous.
You look fabulous today.
Well, thank you.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna go with right now, that you look fabulous, and it's better to look good than to feel good.
That was a terrible, terrible voice.
You know, it's better to look good than to feel good. Yeah, how about that? Was that
better to look good and lose than to look bad and win.
Something like that. Something like that. I hope everybody out there is doing well. It's been a very weird week. Let me tell you. Let me just say that right now. It just has really been a weird week, though.
It has been.
But I'd like to say that I'm forever surprised at our elected officials. However, I'm not really that surprised. I mean, no. I not anymore. These people, there's nothing that they will ever say at this point that I don't think that, I mean.
Like, I never stop and go like, wow, I can't believe they said that.
When is the last time that you actually said about an elected official that they were smart?
It doesn't happen often.
No.
Like, it really doesn't happen often. By the way, on the first... Hold on, let me say something else here. Because this just pops up, and this is totally separate from anything else. If your jump screen is, it's time to arrest Barack Hussein Obama for treason and like if you agree.
You're on the same page I was on a few minutes ago.
What the hell? All right. He made it through the Clintons. He made it through first term into the second term. I don't like Barack Obama any more than any of the rest of you do. But can we get off of the treason thing now? Obviously, he's not going to do that. Obviously, they're not going to do that. And if we're going to start holding elected officials accountable for treason, there's probably about 500 of them that we can go ahead and do that with.
It's a long list.
Stop singling out the guy. Just arrest them all for treason then.
And when you ask for the specifics as to what exactly he has done that justifies treason, you get very vague descriptions, and you get things that don't really amount to treason. Are they unconstitutional? Is it wrong? Do we disagree with it? Yeah. But is it treasonous? I don't think so.
Yeah. Look, most of the crap that they do up there, I would consider treason anyway.
Yeah.
However, with that being said, it ain't going to happen. And it's 2015. The next election's a year and 8 months away. Is that what it is? A year and 8 months? A year and 6 months.
Something like that.
But at any rate, just stop it already, please. Help me out here. It figures that the website is GOPthedailydose.com.
Of course it is.
Because it would take Republicans to continue that crap. Get their mind off the fact that their boys are in charge of the control of the House and the Senate. How's that working out for us all? Yeah, really nice. God, they're so annoying. All right. So, California Democrat Barbara Lee's an idiot.
Yes. And okay, and I found this because it was trending on Facebook, for a minute. And you know how when you see the story in your newsfeed, it'll have related stories? Like if you like this, you'll like these stories. Well, the story that came up was Hank Johnson saying Guam would tip over.
Yeah. Definitely in the same vein.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, at least I know Facebook's algorithms are correct.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting something right.
So I thought that was really funny that the first thing that it was like, you may also like.
Yeah.
I definitely think Danielle should read this woman's quote because it's so much funnier coming from the mouth of a woman.
So
Yeah. No. Well, yeah, go with that.
So Congresswoman Lee, she's from California, Barbara Lee, actually said as a House solution, and it has something to do with climate change. And honestly, I didn't even read it because I saw her quote about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's enough for me. But what she was saying is that that we have to have we have to start addressing global warming. And the reason why is because she's worried about women. And her quote is, women will disproportionately face harmful impacts from climate change. Food insecure women with limited socioeconomic resources are vulnerable to situations such as sex work, transactional sex, and early marriage that put them at risk for HIV, STIs, unplanned pregnancy, and poor reproductive health. So apparently, global warming is going to cause all the women to become hookers.
That is not an effect that I've seen in any scientific journals.
I actually, and Kelly was there. I'm like, well, you better not turn the heat on in here. You don't know what'll happen to us. We may just go start street walking.
People just lose their minds. Like, what kind of a moron do you have to be to make... Like, and she tried to sound all smart about it, too. You know, like socioeconomic conditions, and they'll force them to have trans sex. You know? Look, what kind of sex isn't transactional sex anyway?
I just bought $5 worth of 50-cent words, and I'm going to drop them all in this statement.
Yeah. You know how she bought the words is because she had transactional sex beforehand and got the money to buy those expensive-ass words. Because of global warming.
Food insecure women? I'm not sure women who are hungry, women trying to are women with eating disorders.
Exactly.
Could be any of them, actually. You're right. You're absolutely right. You know.
It's going to turn them into bulimic hookers.
Early marriage automatically puts you at risk for HIV.
Yeah. Wait, hold on, though. Vulnerable, by the way, vulnerable to situations such as... So these are all the bad things, all lumped together. So all of them are basically equal. Sex work. Now, I don't understand the difference for her between sex work and transactional sex, though.
I don't know.
Like, what's the difference between...
Maybe one is like videos, like you're doing porn, and then the other one would be an actual hooker.
Yeah, I guess one is like if you're the fluffer, and one is like
so there's going to be more
actually
porn.
on camera.
There's going to be more porn if we...
But only women, so it will all be lesbian porn.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Hold on, though, but sex work, transactional sex, early marriage.
Right, which is apparently bad. And then if you read the rest, it says early marriage that put them at risk for HIV.
Yeah. So how is early marriage putting you at a risk for HIV, though?
Apparently, if you pledge your life to one person and you're too young, that's automatically going to give you HIV. I don't think she understands how you get HIV.
I don't think she understands life. Like, what a moron. Seriously, though, what a moron. How on earth do the people in her district think that her being their representative is a good idea unless we are living in idiocracy? Because that's the only way that it makes sense. Because this woman is a flippin' moron.
I read it and I'm like, what?
You can't make this stuff up, folks.
Like, seriously, how poorly do you have to think about women that you think if the temperature raises 2 degrees, that all of a sudden they're all going to be hookers, that everybody's going to run into marriages, and that marriage will now cause HIV?
Yeah, everybody's 2 degrees away from just sleeping with each other. Everybody's 2 degrees away from hedonism. You know, that's what it is. Everybody's just 2 degrees away from
Two more degrees, you're all gonna be working at the Bunny Ranch.
You know how I know you know how I know global warming is bullcrap?
Talk about
Because
it.
people like her will use arguments like this, and if this is what you got as an argument, then you know that it's bullshit. Straight up, no kidding around, bullshit.
I can't get over just how dumb it is. It is. This is exactly like Congressman Hayes is going to tip over.
You know, look, right now, Johnson's on the top of the hill. Like he's at the top.
He's king of the hill, like as they're playing.
She's making a run. You know, she's making a run for it. You know, to take the crown of most idiotic statement made by a congressperson away. She's working on it.
I don't know. I think they're going up the hill together like Jack and Jill.
Now, Hank's up there. He's got his picture of Guam up there. He's hanging
halfway tipped over.
Halfway tipped over. He's up. She's running. She's working on it. But you know what the problem was is that it got a little too hot a little too soon, and she got stopped. You know, she got stopped because she had sex with 3 dudes. She had a threesome on the way up.
Sex.
Yeah, well, she got $20, but she used all that money to buy them big words. Like she screwed herself. Pardon the pun.
I don't know. I think they're both going up the hill together like Jack and Jill to fetch a pail of race cards.
to fetch a pail of race cards.
Yes,
that's that ain't even like a move to another story. Like you just were like letting that one sit on its own. Like
there you go.
Take that too. A pail of race cards for you guys. Bought that shit from Jesse for 10 for $1. Jesse being Jesse Jackson, but
oh, okay, I didn't know. Could
have been Jesse Benton, Jesse Ventura. Who knows?
A lot of Jessies going around.
A lot of Jessies out there.
So that was our dumb moments in Congress for the. I mean, we actually have some serious, which is equally dumb.
Oh yeah, there's lots of dumb moments in Congress. C-SPAN makes sure to show us all that.
I still can't get over the. Like if you watch the Florida channel and Alex will be like, halfway through, falling asleep because it is incredibly boring. Oh. Sudden, like some senator or Congress or representative will say something like they'll start getting angry at the questions and they'll say something back that's just hysterical.
Wake you right up.
Yeah, like every once in a while they just get upset. Well, Senator Dieter this week, and I don't have this in the Tallahassee thing, I just happen to know it happened. Senator Dieter went after AFP this week and doing like that same, kind of like, she says basically that, yeah, you guys are all about prosperity, your own prosperity, because you're all getting paid to be up here and harass me.
Nice. I like it.
So every once in a while you get a little gem, but that was Congress's gem, Barbara Lee.
Yeah. Speaking of another subject where people just lose their whole complete friggin' mind and have no idea of history and are acting like a bunch of friggin' apes, let's talk about Iran.
Well, did you want to talk about the Hannity thing, and then I'll go into the actual...
Yeah. Let me do that first, and then you go into the other stuff. So, I was watching Fox to see this live. However, Pat Buchanan was on Hannity's show. I don't know if you know who Pat Buchanan is, but
get out from under your rock then.
Yeah.
Seriously.
He's an older Republican, somebody that you would consider to be a paleocon, I think is what they call him. He very much is somebody that's realistic on Iran and on foreign policy in general, where I actually do have a lot of agreement with Pat on that. Pat's got a little racism going on that I don't really like too much, but other than that, we're okay. He's not really overtly racist. He's just kind of like, okay, that's beside the point, by the way.
Yeah, let's not go down that bunny trail.
Hannity brings Pat on to talk about Iran. Now, I don't know if Hannity brought Pat on to argue with him or for Pat to agree with him, but Pat wasn't not having any bit of the argument or wasn't having any bit of the agreement on here. And proceeds to basically make Hannity look like a fearmonger and scaredy cat, which was exactly what we should be doing.
Yeah,
because, and Pat, he said it in the interview. He's like, "Look, I'm not afraid of Iran. We'll blow them up in an afternoon." Like he basically was like, "What is your problem, Sean? These guys suck all day long." Did you watch the clip or no?
I did not see that clip.
No.
It's funny.
It is funny, actually, because every time, and Hannity will, how he's an interrupter.
Uh-huh.
But he doesn't really interrupt Pat Buchanan a whole lot, though, because he does have a lot of respect for Pat Buchanan. So he will interrupt him a little bit, but he also lets Pat get his stuff out. And every time, Pat's like, nope, that's not what's going on. What are you talking about? That's not it at all. And then just kept going down the thing, and Hannity is just foaming at the mouth. He gets so hysterical about it. Like, have you ever seen somebody get that freaking hysterical? And he kept saying the same thing over and over again. They're supporting terror. They're funding terror. Which, you know what, man? And then Pat Buchanan's like, look, they're fighting ISIS in Iraq. They're fighting ISIS in Syria. They're fighting our enemies right now. He's not saying to be friends with them. He's just saying we should talk to him. And he brought up, and the problem with Pat, well, not the problem with Pat, the good thing about Pat is old enough that he knows all the history of all this stuff pretty well. He's written books about it.
He's been involved in it?
Yeah, he's been involved in it.
He was there.
So, Pat Buchanan does a pretty good job of, look, Khrushchev was saying the same thing, and we met with him, with these people, to be able to work this stuff out. That way we don't send our men and women overseas. And Hannity is just having none of it. You know what I don't understand? And people will give you conspiracy theories all day long about stuff. And yet we'll gloss over this incredible conspiracy theory. That Saudi Arabia, or that people in Saudi Arabia, own most of the news. And Saudi Arabia hates Iran. Do you think that affects their programming at all, baby? Just a little bit? Or is that not a problem? Because, go ahead.
Well, let's just clarify for a second. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a matter of public record of who owns Fox News. I mean, it is mostly owned by Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, Saudi Arabians own a good chunk of Fox News. So, and the Saudis hate Iran. And Iran, just a mutually, hateful situation right there. So, but they own Fox News. It ain't America. I know you'd like to go, it's American apple pie and Ted Nugent owns Fox News or something like that. It's a conglomeration between Ted Nugent, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and I don't know, name some other neocon scumbag there.
Fox News is just another amplified Nugent.
Yeah.
What a scary combination that would be. Ted Nugent, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary, by the way. I wouldn't like any of that. And Pat Buchanan holds his own, and he's very good about it. And look, Pat Buchanan's been doing this for a long, long time. But this gets into what is currently going on with Iran. And the other problem is, I wish for the life of me that people would understand the history of the area and the entire history of the area, not one version of it. Mm-hmm. I posted this. Pat made some great points, and there's this guy that started arguing, with me about it. Well, Hannity really beat him in the interview because Pat was losing right from the start. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't watch the same interview that you did. I had to go back and watch it again just to make sure that maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm crazy.
No, you weren't.
No, I know. I wasn't, because this guy was just an idiot. And it got down to the main point, though. And the main point is, that there is a real big difference of opinion as to what national defense actually is. And that's something that people need to understand. National defense has nothing at all to do with our troops being in another country unless we're declaring war on them. Mm-hmm. Period. And we shouldn't be rebuilding a damn thing for these things. Look, man, get the hell out. But, and then this guy actually said that Germany and Japan are thanking us for being occupiers over there since World War II.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily true.
We dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan. Can we remember that part? Because I guarantee you, if they had that to do over again, they probably wouldn't have wanted that to happen.
They'd probably say, like, hey, maybe we should stop before they drop the bomb on us.
Yeah. Now, one thing that Hannity did not do with Pat, which I really thought was good, he didn't give him the blame America thing. Like, you hate America. That Pat was able to make sure that didn't have Hannity do that to him, which I thought was good. Because what Pat was saying was, well, and Pat also said, and said correctly, the problem right now is because Bush and them set up a democracy over there, and the Sunnis won, and we lost.
Right.
Like they had an election, we lost the election.
Right.
We gave that country to the people that like Iran.
Right.
And again, we didn't have a choice. Here's the thing. Here's the choice we would have had. Don't go over there and kill Saddam Hussein. But at any rate, tell us what's going on with the negotiations between the greatest negotiator in the world, Barack Obama. Psych, by the way. That guy's a sucky negotiator all day long. And Iran.
Well, they have a joint comprehensive plan of action. So they basically the world leaders that will participate have come to an agreement. And it looks like probably you're going to have a big signing and all this, and everyone will be all like, yay. But there's some provisions in here, and basically a lot of it has to do with Iran's enrichment of uranium. That they, and I don't want to go into a lot of the technical parts of it because you really would have to understand how you enrich uranium to even understand some of this. But there's different ways to enrich uranium. One would be to produce power, and then you could go further, and then that would be the point where you could actually use it as a weapon. So they're closing about 2/3 of all of their centrifuges. Centrifuges is where you actually enrich uranium, and you would do that, for either weapon making or for power. So they're gonna close. They have to close 2/3 of them. They have to close the main place that they're enriching uranium right now. It will have to move into another place that everybody has said is more secure and doesn't have the capability of making it weapons grade. So they're only going to be able to enrich uranium to the point that it would be able to produce power, but not bring it to the level that it would produce any kind of weapons grade uranium. Is basically the deal. They have to close some facilities. They have to convert some other facilities. And that will happen over the next, some will happen right away, but it'll be over the next 15 to 20 years because you have to do these things in phases because when you're dealing with uranium, you're a very highly toxic substance that could, severely damage any environment that it goes in if you don't process it and get rid of it properly. If they do all of this and do this, they have to open up for inspections constantly. There is, constant and continuous surveillance of all uranium mills for the next 25 years. There's continuous surveillance of Iran's centrifuges, their rotors, any kind of production and storage facility for 20 years. That they have continuous monitoring of their enrichment infrastructures and continuous monitoring of all of the sites that they're closing so that they're being monitored, that they are actually going to where they're supposed to go, and that they're closing them and disposing of any excess uranium in a responsible manner. So it's continuous surveillance, and it's very clear in here that they say the words continuous surveillance. So this isn't like we're going to come in once a year. This is we are going to watch everything you do. And so they're doing these. The reactor buildings they have to close. There's a lot of other heavy water facilities, which heavy water is where you actually keep uranium in. So they're going to have to start closing those sites down, and we'll have continuous surveillance over this. If they do all of these things, and it's verified that they have their commitments, then the sanctions will be lifted. The U.S. and the EU will lift their nuclear-related sanctions, all of the sanctions, economic sanctions, and things like that. All of this will be lifted as soon as it's verified that they're doing these things. And as they verify different stages, then they get more and more sanctions lifted. But if they do anything that would appear to be not within this, then the sanctions immediately go back. So as soon as they say, hey, this wasn't what we agreed to, even just a little bit, then that's it. The sanctions go back. U.S. sanctions on Iran for terrorism, human rights abuses, and ballistic missiles will remain in place under the deal. So they will still have some sanctions. It'll just be a lot of the other things. And then, of course, it goes into the different phases. But it's generally between 10 and 25 years we'll see these things be completed.
Look, call me crazy, call me naive, call me an idiot, call me stupid. That doesn't even sound like a half bad deal.
I read through it just this morning, and it didn't
sounds
seem that
to me
bad.
like there's a whole lot that they are agreeing to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, look, the first argument that you hear a lot of people make is, well, they're liars and they're just always going to be liars, and that's just the way it is. So you're going to say, well, anything they even agreed to, they wouldn't do anyway. Okay, well, let's give them an opportunity on this one to not do it then, because going to war is not the answer here. And I think, honestly, the real argument we need to be having with the with the Iran thing is that, do you think that it is inevitable to go to war? Do you think that war is inevitable? Because, honestly, and this is the thing that Hannity's not saying, and all the other neocon all the other neocons aren't saying, they think that it's inevitable that we're going to go to war with Iran, and they're going to do everything they can to fill that narrative.
Yep.
And if it means, and here's the thing, Sean Hannity, he knows he ain't going. He knows he ain't going to be the one over there. He's going to be on TV reporting it, and he don't give two craps about your kid, because if your kid dies over there, so be it. Just the way it is, guys. Hannity has no problem sending your kids off to war to die for something that he was told to believe in.
Yep.
But more importantly, if you don't think that we can have a peaceful solution to this problem, then you shouldn't be any of the people that are in charge of negotiating any of this. Because the problem is, there's hardliners over in Iran that believe the same thing. The problem with the neocons, they're a lot closer to the mullahs than they want to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the mullahs over there, they don't like gay people either.
Well, and
Yeah.
Right.
They pull down on how they're going to take care of that problem.
Well, if it was legal here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the Congress people actually said, you're lucky we don't kill the gays here.
Right.
Yeah. I don't remember who that was, but somebody was. Look, man, again, Obama can't do a good deal, but this is a deal, though.
I don't see
Give them a chance to break this. Go ahead.
I don't see this as a bad deal, and I know that the one thing that Hannity loves to bring up is that, well, Iran has said, death to Israel and things like this, and we brought the same subject up last night, is that, people keep saying, and Benjamin Netanyahu said it in his speech, and Sean Hannity keeps reiterating it, And aside from one comment made by Ahmadinejad when he was the leader of Iran, I've never seen them say, like, everybody says, well, they just said this last week, but nobody provides a video of them saying it.
Yeah.
Now, what the hell is that?
And it's mighty convenient that it's in a language that none of us understand, so they can tell us whatever they want us to think that they said, which quite often they do.
Well, and quite often it's actually, if you take there's actually a different interpretation of what they said, and it ain't the same thing that they said it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened at the one that they did show, is that they showed one and gave a translation, and then someone who spoke Arabic said, well, no, you're misinterpreting the words. The words actually say what you're saying, but that's not how we use that word in that language.
Yeah. Well, look, and this is what Hannity did it in the clip. He goes, the general said this, and here's a clip from Netanyahu. Hey, look, Israel wasn't involved in that whole little situation right there. They just weren't involved. So no need to bring your boy up and bring him in to do something. How about we hear from the guy that actually said it? And then we can hear from Pat Buchanan. I think Benjamin Netanyahu's got a little bit too much playtime here in America. The election's over, so we don't have to prop him up anymore like we did. That guy won that election because he came over here to be able to talk over here. Again, why are we screwing with the sovereignty of other countries, by the way? Look, I want the people of
because that's what we do.
Well, yeah. I want the people of Israel to be able to pick whoever they want to pick as their leader. And I don't think we should have anything to do with how that selection process goes. But conversely, we shouldn't be helping any of them out either, though. And I think it really shows poorly upon us as a country that we were willing to do that. And again, playing games over there, and this guy Cotton, you want to talk about dumbasses on the Democrat side? Cotton's a dumbass on the Republican side. Like, that Cotton guy's an idiot, a freaking moron. How in the hell is this guy a senator? This guy's going to get us killed. This guy's going to start World War III, and I think he's looking to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the one thing that Pat Buchanan kept saying is, number one, those are just words, but, world leaders have gotten upset with each other for, years upon years, decades and centuries. And, but that doesn't stop us from trying to make the situation better. Yes, things get heated. People say these things. And then we go in, and that's why you have this diplomatic process where we try to negotiate deals so that we don't have the things that people are saying carried out. And Sean Hannity was just like, so you don't believe them? And he goes, well, they've been saying this stuff for, 50 years and haven't done it. So no. Yeah,
that was the last the last guy that was there for 8 years. Said it a bunch of times, never did anything about it. And Netanyahu, oh gosh, and I got to tell you, Pat's best line of the night. About Netanyahu has been saying this about Iran since the 90s, and nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh crap, I can't believe they even let that on TV.
Yeah, it's very much like the street preachers that are like, the end is nigh, the world's coming to an end tomorrow. And
yeah,
they've been saying it for 40 years.
Yeah, that guy's been on that street corner for 40 years saying the same thing. How the hell does he think? How does he think he has any credibility anymore? I'm also offended that Fox News is the number one news show in America. Like, it really does offend me at this point that Fox News is number one. Not because I think MSNBC should be number one, because they shouldn't be. Nor CNN. Well, actually, CNN's not so
I think CNN
incredibly
is
bad.
actually the one most.
Of the national news channels,
right.
CNN is my preferred over the Fox and NBC.
I find them to be the most unbiased. I mean, they still have some bias in there, but for the most part, it's just, here you go.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that. But look, we have to make a deal with Iran if we want to solve this problem. Not because Iran is like incredibly good, because they're bad. They're the people in charge are a bunch of bad guys. But let's remember that the reason that they're in charge is because we overthrew their democratically elected leader in '53, and because that dictator was there, basically, murdering their citizens until 70-something. That the mullahs were able to go in there and actually clean house and take over. And then we had a proxy war with Iran and Iraq for 10 years. Remember Iran-Contra scandal. And we were basically arming both sides to be able to give them as much weapons as possible. So now we've turned Iran into a very hardened place. However, they don't really like America because they feel because we armed the Iraqis for 10 years with CS gas and mustard gas and all this other crap to go over there and kill those guys, that they're not real happy about us.
Well, a cursory glance at the facts of our dealings with Iran is going to show you quite clearly why they are not going to trust any deal we make with them. Why should they trust us? We screw them over every single time. We have never held our end of the bargain with any deals we've made with them, but that's what the American government does.
Yeah.
We screw everyone over unless they do exactly what they want. You want to know what it's like to make a deal with the American government? Go talk to an Indian.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: is you have all these people on the right saying, well, they're this, highly radicalized Islamic governments over there that they're using their religion and everything to run the government. Every time they have democratically installed a secular government, we overthrow them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that democratically elected secular government comes in and goes, we're not friends with the United States. We shouldn't be friends with the United States, and we're not going to make any deals with them and be buddies with them. So it's time for us to go in and kick ass and take over.
Again, find out the real history of what we've done with Iran. And again, this you can go, well, you're just blaming America. No. I'm blaming our scumbag politicians and the CIA. Because those are the two people that have allowed these things to happen and that were part of it. It wasn't your regular troop on the ground. It was the CIA and our elected officials and this operation around the world to install puppet dictatorships everywhere we can in order to control the flow of oil.
And every time we take out a secular government and we put in a very radicalized religious government. So for everybody who's saying, well, they're just radicalized and they're letting their religion take over their government. No, we let their religion take over their government because they elected secular leaders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One other thing, and this is the bigger point, because there's going to be a lot of people listening to this show. They're going to be like, Alex, man, I'm with you so much on all the domestic policy stuff. But, man, foreign policy, man, we just have this wide area of disagreement. So I'm going to ask, or I'm going to frame it this way for you, to make it easier for it to go down, because you need the medicine for the medicine to go down. This is like the sugar. This is like the sweet.
No, that sounds horrible. I'm going to give you more medicine so that the medicine will go down.
No.
We're going to cut the NyQuil with some Listerine.
Here's the thing. Most people that are listening to this show will freely admit that domestically, despite all the good intentions, despite anything that you were trying to do that was good, is that government intervention in domestic affairs has almost every time proven to be like a real bad idea. The government gets involved in this stuff and they just screw it up.
Every time.
Pretty much every time. Why do you think that doesn't happen in foreign policy? Why do you think that there's somehow we can be 100 batting 1,000 on foreign policy and batting 0 domestically, and that's a good idea? I understand the Constitution says that we should be able to provide for a national defense. I agree with you, and we should do it. It doesn't change the fact that if you do something, even foreign policy-wise, that's outside of the scope of the Constitution, that things are going to go badly, because they'll always go badly, because despite the best intentions, we don't understand the situations and we're not willing to deal with the unintended consequences of our actions over there. Our meddling has caused problems. This does not blame the troops, mind you. This is not putting the onus on them. All they can do is go there. There's nothing else that they can do. Our elected officials have screwed this up because of ego and opportunism and some weird proxy war that they've been fighting since 1953. So, in closing, if you agree with libertarians on domestic policy and you think that we're dead on there, then maybe you ought to take a look at what libertarians are saying foreign policy-wise put down the I watch Fox News and I hate the Iran people colored glasses. Realize those people are owned by the freaking Saudis to begin with. Realize that we're in the middle of a secular war between different sects of a religion that's been going on for a long, long time. Centuries. And realize we don't really have a role to play. And we should come home. And they'll take care of themselves. And we should protect our borders. That's it. Danielle, anything on that?
Just listen to Pat Buchanan's opinion on this, because he knows what's going on because he was around when it was still Persia.
It was funny actually when Pat Buchanan was.
He was around when it was still Persia. I think he was.
Pat Buchanan is just like, oh come on, Sean. Like he gets to the point where he's like, come on.
Yeah.
And doesn't Andy sound like a petulant little child there too?
That's
He
every
really
episode.
Well, no, some more than others, but this one for definitely the petulant child type in this one. Painful. I'm just painful. So, hey, look, man, we talked to. We got the what's the next one? What's the New York Terror? What are you just talking about, like in general?
Like in general.
Yes.
It's a terror place.
It's terrifying to go there. I don't know why anyone's there. No, actually, it's terrifyingly high priced.
Hey, open that door, by the way. It's hot in here, man. Are you hot?
No, I have a jacket on.
Oh. Why do you have a jacket on?
Because I'm cold.
You should move to Iran. It's warmer there. Don't get too warm, though, because you might start doing sex work.
That's what I was going to say. Watch out.
It's a very tight
Are you
rope.
trying to force her into prostituting and HIV?
Early marriage. Although I think I'm not a candidate for early marriage anymore.
You might have passed that
You might
one up
have
already.
passed that threshold. You know, it was my mom's birthday the other day. She says she's 25 plus shipping and handling.
Nice.
And Alex goes, that's a lot of shipping and handling.
I totally said that. I did say that. That was funny. That is a lot of shipping and handling, though. Well, you're paying more for the shipping and handling than you are for the product.
Just like buying off a TV.
It's a good point, by the way.
99 cents and $72 shipping and handling.
That's the kind of deal I get on Fox News.
All day long.
So in New York, 2 women have recently been arrested and accused of planning to carry out a terrorist attack in the United States. So they were looking up how to make explosive devices, that they did have some fertilizer, they had some other things. It's unclear if they had enough to where they could have actually performed any, terrorist attack. But that they had gone onto social media and said nice things about, ISIS and things like that.
And
did Google searches for pressure cookers and backpacks?
Yeah, no, actually they did.
Hold on a second.
Not backpacks, though.
How do you have something nice to say about ISIS?
Apparently they did.
Like, seriously, how do you have something nice to... What are they doing that's even remotely nice?
Well, they did get, U.S.-issued uniforms, so they're dressed nice, I guess.
Touche.
So they had materials, including propane tanks, soldering tools, pipes, pressure, and fertilizer. And they had said some things. So they are now arrested. They're going to go through, but what
hold on.
They're going to go through the legal process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're like, they're going to go through, like Gitmo?
I'm not really sure.
Are they going to Guam to help tip the thing over? What are they doing?
They're going to go through the legal process on this, and they've been charged with some crimes, but it's really unsure how they're going to deal with this. So, when I say that, it's like, they're going to go through some stuff.
She's actually being more specific than the government is.
Right. They're ordered detained until trial, but they didn't really say, they didn't really make charges and actually have hearings on, how they plead or anything. It basically said that, they're charged with conspiracy to use weapons of mass destruction, and their lawyers are like, we're going to defend them, and they're going to plead not guilty, but normally you would have to do that already to be detained, and they're detained anyway, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But they're going to go through the legal process and we'll see. But apparently this is like a rash of cases that have been happening, which apparently, Fox News has not wanted to exploit for the last 2 weeks because I haven't heard it. And, I do have some people on my social media that still like Fox News. It's funny if I see the headlines and I'll see it's a Fox News story and I'll actually go Google it to see if I can find it somewhere else so that I don't click on a Fox News story and give them a hit on their website.
Nice.
That makes sense.
I refuse to do it.
Not getting any AdSense revenue off of me.
Yeah. That actually is kind of funny.
I don't do it. I think you even asked me the other day. I read your headline. You're like, well, what's the whole story? I'm like, well, it's Fox News. I don't like to click on those.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really don't know. But there have been, they call it a rash of cases where a lot of, well, not a lot, but this is like just recently you had an Air Force veteran that was charged with attempting to aid the Islamic State. He was in New Jersey. He pleaded not guilty last month. You have another, on Thursday, there was a U.S. citizen accused of training with Al-Qaeda in Pakistan. He just appeared in a Brooklyn federal court on Thursday. And you have an Army National Guard soldier been arrested for conspiring to support ISIS by trying to attack a military installation in Illinois. There's a Somali American teenager who tried to go to Turkey last year to go join ISIS. But a lot of these, what I was reading through some of these, started to do some of the case history and reading some of these cases, besides these two women, most of them they actually did not want to attack here at all. They wanted to join over there and help them fight over there. But we arrested them before they got to leave, and now they're in our jails.
And what exactly is the charge? That's right. This is Patriot Act America. We don't need a charge.
Charges. Who needs thinking charges?
So you had someone who trained with Al-Qaeda in Pakistan and wanted to leave the country to go join them and fight. And we were like, no. And we just jailed them. Like, you must stay here.
You want to leave this country and go fight alongside our enemies? No, we're going to keep you here.
No, you must. Like, aren't those the people that we want to not be here?
Yeah, why don't we get all of them on a plane and then shoot that one down?
I don't think we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I don't
like
think
that's ever stopped them before.
I don't think we're allowed to do that either, Greg. That's crazy talk.
But the one thing that I had noticed about all of these cases, now the two women were actually trying to do something, and it's very unclear if they would actually have been successful, because it seems like they were very not organized in this. But listen, these were two women who were trying to do something bad, so they absolutely should be in jail. They should be charged. They should stay in jail. But the rest of them, when they were like, and all these other people did the same thing, and I'm like, well, not really. All these other people wanted to leave, and we kept them here. Like these are the people leave. You should leave. Like when we say, if you like them, go fight with them. They were trying to do that. They're like, yeah, I'm going. And we're like, no, you must stay. Like, no, these are the people we want to leave. We don't want them here. They should go.
Screw them. I think we should all move them all to one side of Guam. Watch it tip over.
Just let them all take a Malaysian air flight.
Yeah.
We'll never hear from them again.
Yeah.
German wings.
There you go.
And there's been, and when we haven't talked about this because it's not really political or anything, but the German wings co-pilot that crashed that into the French Alps, which is a horrific story. And, within minutes, there's like stories all over the social media that'll be like, well, he had converted to Islam. And you're like, there's zero evidence of that. This is a guy who suffered from severe depression.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing about that story is that It's the policies that were enacted post 9/11 that enabled him to be able to pull this off. And now Germany is actually officially saying, we may have overreacted after 9/11 and we're going to have to rethink these policies and figure out a different way to do this because we now realize that we screwed ourselves over and enabled him with these restrictive policies.
Right.
Imagine that. The first hour of the show should have a title on it, and the title says, "Government just doesn't work."
Yeah, that should be the title.
I'm not an anarchist, but I'm just saying.
This government does
This
not
government
work.
doesn't work.
Don't pee on my foot and tell me it's raining.
Don't pee on my foot. Tell me it's. Don't pee on my foot and tell me it's raining. Okay. All right, Greg. All right.
But yeah, the first things that we didn't even have, like the black box in this plane hadn't even been taken and examined yet, and you had things all over. I had things all over my social media. He was a convert to Islam, and then all of a sudden you get like all the backstory, and it's like, no, he suffered mental illness, severe mental illness.
Yeah.
Which could be the same thing. But.
Well, I'm not saying that Islam isn't a mental illness, but
I'm saying that he had no ties to it.
Oh, I got you.
So it's just everybody wants to tie everything into, I think when we do that, when we start tying everything into, conspiracies, you end up not really addressing any of the real situations. Listen, we have a pilot who was worried his whole life was flying, and everyone says that's all he cared about was flying planes, and he was in such a state of depression and mental psychosis that he psychosomatically was losing his vision, which means he would not have been able to pass the next medical exam that was coming up very shortly. I think it was like June that he was going to have another medical exam, and he, got suicidal and crashed a plane. And everybody wants to tie it to something else. Like, they want to take every tragedy that happens and tie it to whatever their issue is.
Right. Well, like right now, it's Islam and terrorism. Mm-hmm. Those are the buzzwords. They're terrorists or they're Muslims. Back in the 80s, it was Russians and communists, and it was the same thing. Whenever something bad happens, was it the communists or was it the Russians? And now anything bad happens, it was terrorists, it was Muslims. It's the same thing. In 20 years, it's going to be other buzzwords that we're using, and everybody that's bad is ultimately going to be immediately going to be thrown into this grouping, and we're going to try and find a way to make them that evil thing that we all hate right now. But the reality is, people are crazy, people are stupid, people make bad decisions, people do evil things. And it doesn't, whether they're a communist or a Muslim or what country they're from, it doesn't matter. And that's never going away as long as we have people, crazy people, and bad people, and stupid people. And, the classifications don't matter.
Yeah.
You're like...
What are you looking at over there?
Yeah, well, you're like infatuated with porn or something over there because you're not participating in the show as much as normal.
Well, no, I wanted to get. I got some of the things I said out there, and I want other people to have the opportunity to. So, like, I got myself out there, but I don't want to control everything.
Did you like blow everything with Pat Buchanan, and now you're just kind of in a
Don't
lull?
use the word blow and Pat Buchanan in the same sense. I'd appreciate it if you didn't. So I'm just saying I don't want that. I like Pat kind of, but not like that.
Did you blow your wad on Pat Buchanan?
I blew my wad up. Oh, that's just so wrong.
Maybe it just got too hot around here.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens with this global warming.
Turning us all into hookers.
Goes up a couple degrees. Next thing you know, my pants are off and I got KY jelly. And there's no need for that crap. You got no time for that.
Now, the one story that is also big news that we have not brought up at all in weeks is the Clinton emails. Now they have they're now looking at the servers and stuff, and she's wiped them clean.
I did not have textual relations with that server.
I mean, did you think any different?
No.
No.
Like, seriously, did you think different? So,
Did you really think that a Clinton was going to play it above board? That they were going to be honest?
yeah.
No.
They weren't.
Yeah. So now they're she just independently decided to wipe the server clean. She was like, oh, you must have everything, so it's gone.
No, see, I gave you everything that you need.
Right.
I provided it all to you. So I'm going to delete the rest because everything that you need to see, you've seen.
Yeah. I don't know why in the world we're dealing with this.
I think this is really going to hurt her chances to run.
Oh, yeah. Her stock is falling every day.
I think you're going to get a challenge from the left, too.
I think they're looking for someone to challenge her.
Mm-hmm.
The part about it is I don't really think they have anybody to challenge her.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I mean, it's a very short list of names that you can even come up with when having this discussion.
Yeah, but nobody knew who Barack Obama was.
Right.
He was this challenger that everyone kind of laughed about and was like, he can't beat Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
They just bring someone out of nowhere and then pump a bunch of money into their campaign.
Yeah. But we can't predict who that's going to be right now. We're looking at it right now, and we try and figure out the name. It's like Elizabeth Warren. That's all anyone can come up with. Bernie Sanders. But that's not realistic.
No.
Neither of them are going to win. So who's it going to be? Doesn't look like Clinton's going to be able to win either.
Well, they got this California congresswoman.
She's pretty sharp.
She's pretty sharp. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. You take that, you do what you want to do with that. You either give it back or you keep it. I'm just putting it out there that they got a woman there. She's got her head on straight. So
If
The wrong way.
if straight is, absolutely backwards.
Yeah.
oh, my bad.
It's on straight the same way that you're still going straight when you're going the wrong way down a one-way street.
Right.
Well, let's take a break. Next hour, we are going to be talking about religious freedom and freedom in general with Brandon Jones. And I would like to make sure that we continue to have Brandon on the air after this week. So let's all put on our happy faces.
Regardless of what takes place in the next hour, Brandon, we all do love you.
I love Brandon. And Danielle does too.
I do. Like I said, I used
All I'm
words that were
saying is-
factually correct.
Yeah.
The fact that people take that to be, that it was an insult and things like that, I'm sorry. I looked at the definition of a word and then said, well, if you're doing this, then it fits this definition. That's the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let's just take a break then. And we will come back. I want to make sure I have 2 cigarettes while I'm on break because this is going to be quite contentious. And it's getting hot in here, so I'm feeling like I should take my pants off. But hopefully I can make sure that doesn't happen. You listen to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richey today at 727-376-0030.
All right, welcome back to Liberty Underground, 1787 Radio Network, 1787network.com, 1787network.com. Hopefully after this hour, you'll still want to listen to the show. From the sounds of some of this stuff, it looks like we're not going to have a... All right. You're going to call Brandon. So while you're talking to Brandon, I'm going to do some kind of, I don't want to call it a standing rule, but I would call it a guideline that I would like you guys to try, that like all of us to try to adhere to. Not adhere to, but try to just think about.
Hey, Brandon.
This is a very, very heated issue. I firmly believe that the Libertarian Party, or libertarianism in general, has the only solution that, while may not make everybody happy, is actually the solution that is the right solution. But there are people that let's just try to keep this thing as civil as possible. How about I say that? How about we just keep it as very civil? Can we do that, guys? Can we all do that?
I feel like I always do that.
Well, Danielle, I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're saying that you try to do that all the time. Let's just think about it, though. Let's just try to make sure that we all stay civil. I like Brandon. I want Brandon to come back on again.
I love Brandon.
Okay. Let's profess our love for Brandon first.
Brandon, we love you.
Yes, we love Brandon.
I have a lot of respect for Brandon, and I love Brandon being on the show. I think our disagreement is over a word where I'm using it in the factual definition sense, and he has, and because it's very often used in social situations as an insult, other people take it as an insult.
Okay. All right. So this whole thing is going on over the Indiana, the law for Indiana and the decision that they made in Indiana. Now, Danielle, did you do any research on the Indiana law? Do you want to give an explanation as to what is...
Brandon's on the line. Do you want to introduce him?
Oh, first off, let me introduce Brandon. Brandon from the Global Dispatch. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, good morning, all. Enjoying a beautiful day of remembrance headed into Easter weekend. How are all of you? Well, actually, before I proceed with this call and agree to participate, can we at least confirm that Alex does have his pants on?
He does have his.
He does have his
After the
pants on.
after the end of the last segment and the prostitution conversation and Barbara Lee and it was getting hot, I'm a little concerned that he's headed down the slippery slope of fulfilling the prophecies by a California representative.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, hold on. Actually, me and Brandon had talked earlier in the week, and there was something else that was, before we get into this issue, there was something else that Brandon wanted to talk about. What was the other thing, Brandon?
Oh, well, I just wanted to just preface, probably our biggest story of the week was really kind of a surprise for me, and that was the fact we did a review on Killing Jesus, and we actually had 2 interviews with the actor who played Jesus himself as well as the writer, and just kind of a surprise that such a, it's just a historical film. It doesn't carry any real spiritual weight behind it. It's not about miracles or anything like that, just a historical piece, and well, I don't believe, Bill O'Reilly really kind of bears the kind of fruit that reflects my Christian belief. I do think that he did some good here by trying to at least challenge the liberal press and some folks that may not believe in Christianity to at least honor and respect who Jesus Christ the man was, what he said, on the same platform as, let's say, they do for like Martin Luther King or someone else like that. So yeah, maybe that's why it got so much traction. I'm not really sure. The show did really well, and it does air again tonight and on Sunday. But I found it a little unorthodox for something like that to become such a big story for us this week.
And you actually, and so on the Global Dispatch, though, you actually did get interviews with 2 of the people that were actually on, that actually did that show.
Yeah, we had the actor. His name is Haas. He's actually a Muslim. He was born in Lebanon and is converted, a believer of Jesus. He talks about his faith, how the role really changed him, and the writer himself, the challenges of adapting something like this. How do you balance a historical perspective, take the historical documents out of that narrative? I thought it was a very interesting interview, and I'm very grateful to have that opportunity to share it with everyone.
It is kind of cool that you get some good interviews, man. Like I mean, interviews you wouldn't necessarily think about, but you do get some good interviews. All right, so let's go on.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. All right, Danielle, set this thing up with the Indiana thing. So start with the Indiana thing.
Okay. I'm not as up to date on the Indiana thing. And you did ask me at the beginning, and you asked me if I'd look through it, and I said no.
Oh, okay.
Because the comments that I made were actually not about Indiana whatsoever.
Okay, you were making your comments actually started based off of a racial discussion, not based off of a sexual orientation discussion.
Yeah, exactly. This actually started over a long-running conversation that several of us have had with one person who has now basically called every single white person that ever comments that is a libertarian is a racist. And so this is a long conversation well before the Indiana law this week that has been ongoing for a long time. And this week the conversation went to a KKK member refusing service to a black person. And I made the comment, why would the black person want to go there and give a hate-filled bigot their money?
Yeah, but that was based off of a different conversation.
But it was not based off of this situation.
So let's start with Indiana. So Indiana has made a law, or basically passed something that says that you are allowed to refuse service based off of your religious beliefs.
Not exactly, but the gist of it, basically.
Okay, Greg, why don't you give what your interpretation of what they passed was?
I'll help you understand this. Basically, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 creates protected classes. Those protected classes you are not allowed to discriminate against. Now, someone who is not included in those protected classes are sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, that's at the federal level. Now, several states and a lot of local laws have been enacted that do include those into the protected classes. And basically what the RFRA that Indiana has passed will do is prevents people who are going to discriminate based on their religion against someone from being held accountable in court for doing that. Basically protecting them from legal backlash if they do discriminate against this class that is not protected, while they are protected.
Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to ask Brandon. Brandon, I know you probably have a pretty good feel for what the law that they passed in Indiana is. Can you give an explanation as you see it as to what Indiana did?
Well, before I get to that, let me say that Danielle didn't give quite clear definition of what story she was speaking of, which dealt more with race and not the Indiana issue. And because I didn't read it until 3 or 4 days later, and maybe I'm responding also more because many of the comments seemed like it was driving the conversation towards the controversy that was surrounding Indiana and ultimately Arkansas later in the week. And for me, the Indiana law kind of reiterates a lot of what I think Bill Clinton enacted in 1993. We're supposed to allow for religious freedom in the sense that you're not forced participation. I think this is the line that's very gray. Maybe I'm not up to speed on the language in Indiana and Arkansas's bills that has everyone so concerned that this is wide open discrimination versus being forced participation, because this is coming from the arena of the lawsuits that have fallen victim to the bakers, the florists, and others that are trying to exclude themselves from participation in gay weddings. They say, listen, I'm not trying to throw the gay person out of my store for buying a bouquet of flowers or buying some cupcakes, but I don't want my name, the cake was made by Brandon Jones, the flowers were provided by Brandon's florist, those kinds of things, with a procedure that goes against my religious beliefs. Similarly, I don't think we expect, Muslims to be making bar mitzvah cakes, and we don't expect Jews to be making neo-Nazi cakes and those kinds of things. So I think it fits along the same lines of what the intent is. Does that mean the law is well written or whatever? Well, the track record is politicians don't know how to write laws that don't benefit somebody, so odds are it's probably not really written well. But that's where I come down on my support and how I'm trying to delineate of the voice that I'm trying to speak for. Because if you're throwing out a homosexual because they're trying to buy the regular cake, you're wrong. If you're being asked to participate in their gay gay ceremony by providing their cake, I have to say, if that is truly your religious beliefs, then so be it. But there is a caveat to that I do want to make sure that I'm clear that, I strive to reflect the love of Jesus Christ. And in doing so, I'm trying to be as honest as I can in that. And that, if you've got the woman that's being married for the 6th time, a very unrepentant woman about her relationships and her past marriages, maybe making her cake is probably not in your best interest because you're being pretty hypocritical as far as your evaluation of sin and what your criteria may be. So I think that's where we have to also draw the line, too. If you're the T-shirt maker that doesn't want to make gay pride T-shirts, and let's be perfectly honest, are you also making shirts for, the porn websites and the gambling websites because they pay so much? Because that's where there'd be hypocrisy as well. So I'm trying to at least communicate, I hope, a uniform perspective on what I strive to be and what many of the people in my church and the Christian community that I know and love so much.
Now, let me say this too, because I want to bring this into the discussion a little bit as well. There is this guy by the name of Crowder or something like this who went out to Muslim bakeries in Detroit to try to get the Muslims to make a cake, and they wouldn't do it. Now, they had a different approach of doing it. They basically just would send them to another baker. They're like, oh, no, we don't do that. You got to go down the street and do it there. And then that guy would go, no, we don't do that. You got to do it down the street over here. So, and then the one guy, they kept going back to this one guy that was the baker, and he'd be like, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not doing that. It was funny because I think he partly tried to use, that he didn't understand what the guy was saying as, in a defense. He almost pleaded, I don't speak English. So obviously I can't bake your cake because I don't speak English. Even though I think the dude understood English very, very well. But back to what we were talking about with Indiana.
Well, I think and there was no, in the comments that I was making, Brandon, there was no story there. This was a long-running conversation.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
This was a very long-running conversation with someone that we've been having for many, many months. And he brought up a hypothetical, and my comment to him was, why would you try to force someone to do business with you that hates you? Meaning a KKK member and a black person. And then when I put the comments publicly, people took that to mean something else. But I still stand very clear on it that I don't feel that a bakery that would say, well, I don't want to participate in a ceremony for a gay couple, but I will participate in making a cake for a baby shower of an unwed mother, or I will participate in making a cake for a couple who's been married several times. I think that that's where I get into the and just like you stated too, when if you're using one principle to segment off one class of people, but you don't use that same principle in all the rest of your business, then to me that is the definition of being a bigot. I don't even mean it as an insult. It's just what the definition is. Just as a clear the definition. And because we're not seeing cake bakers say, I'm sorry, I don't make baby shower cakes for unwed mothers, or I don't make them for the subsequent marriages after divorce. And I think that becomes a hypocritical situation. But in saying all of that,
let me interrupt there and say that I would disagree with you. I just don't think those become newsworthy, because I actually have a very close friend that is a baker who's scared to death this is going to end up in her backyard, because she like you say, she fulfills your criteria.
Right.
She's not doing the premarital showers and that kind of thing. She has a very high standard, but at the same time, she's not out insulting people, enraging people, that kind of thing, but not getting sued. What we're seeing with the gay marriage equality movement is that they've moved to get the strong arm of government to intercede. And we may never know what other criteria are. That's the Muslim story that you refer to, Alex, doesn't make the news because there's no strong arm movement by the government to come in and sue the Muslim shop owner. No one's forcing him to do it. Yet we're seeing that the florist in Washington, where she's basically being bankrupted because they're forcing her to pay all these fines and stuff now because they find her to be the bigot, to use the term.
Right. And I would have no problem with the person that that is doing that across the board. I have an issue with people that segment out just one segment of the population. But in saying that, the whole comment that I had made to begin with was that I don't believe any of them should be forced to do business with someone for any reason, and that I would stand up for their right to not do business with them for any reason.
All right, let's get to Greg here, because that dude's chomping at the bit over
I
there.
know.
Like, that dude is rubbing the floor raw at the bottom, like I did to the top of my foot last night. Go ahead, Greg. I don't even want to ask you a question first. Just start.
Well, I have a little bit of a different take on this because I'm from Indiana.
Imagine that.
And I grew up in Indiana. And I have experienced Indiana and Indiana Christians. And I will unapologetically say that I am an anti-religionist, which includes anti-Christian. And Indiana Christians are responsible for that. So this law does not exist in a bubble. And a lot of people, see, the thing is, myself and my parents are the only members of my family that live here in Florida. Everybody else is still up there. I have a ton of friends and a ton of family up there. My Facebook feed is full of this argument. And everybody's making this argument as if it's about freedom. Let me clarify something for you. Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, and the Indiana legislature has no interest in freedom. And I will prove that to you because in Indiana, it is illegal to sell alcohol on Sunday. A repeal bill to change that, to give people freedom and let them buy alcohol on Sunday, was killed in February by this same legislature that passed this. These are not people that are interested in the freedom of man or individual freedom or giving you freedom. These are authoritarian psychopaths who want to instill their religious beliefs through legislation. They have been doing it for years in Indiana and are continuing to do so. That's what the RFRA is about. It is not about freedom. It is about giving a protected class, religion, the right to discriminate against a class that is not protected, gender identity, and sexual orientation without repercussions that they would face because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Here's the thing. Everybody wants to say you should have the freedom to associate with who you want and be able to deny services to whoever you want. In a philosophical argument, I could agree with that. However, that's not the law of the land. The Civil Rights Act changed that. You don't have the right to refuse service to anyone without repercussion. The Civil Rights Act does give you the right to refuse that service, but it also delineates the repercussions for if you discriminate because of this reason, you will face legal ramifications for it. And these people want to be able to avoid those legal ramifications.
But
a protected class, the religious, you cannot discriminate against someone for religion. I cannot deny you service because you're a Christian. But these Christians want to say that I am a protected class, but you are not. I want to be able to discriminate against you because I don't agree with you. And in the philosophical big freedom argument, that's fine. Way with the Civil Rights Act. Go ahead and grab onto that political third rail and see how that works for you. Probably just as well as it did for Barry Goldwater. It's going to fry your political career because nobody wants to do that. This country agreed that if you're going to go into the public sphere and start providing services, that you have to do it for anybody that walks through your door. And you don't get to justify discriminating against a certain class. If you disagree with that, get rid of the Civil Rights Act. Don't try and circumvent it with other legislation, or decide that since this class is not protected, we still retain the right to discriminate against them.
All right.
Well, I don't agree with the Civil Rights Act, so.
Well, yeah. So I have and I think you answered this question, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway, Greg, just to make sure that we're on the same page. You don't believe that business owners have the right to refuse service for anyone for any reason?
In this country, they do not. The Civil Rights Act
because
prevents
of the civil
that.
right. Now, but you do have the right to refuse service to someone. But if it's proven that you refuse service because of race right now, that you would be in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to sexual orientation, though, that Civil Rights Act didn't protect that, though.
Right. Sexual orientation and gender identity are not protected classes under the Civil Rights Act.
So the way
at
the
a federal
law
level.
currently states right now, even before the Indiana law was, if that person did refuse service for that reason, they aren't violating the Civil Rights Act.
Not at a federal level. Some states, which is Washington's one of them, that's why the Baker in Washington's having to deal with this fight, because at a state level and at a local level, a lot of legislatures have added sexual orientation and gender identity to the protected classes.
Okay. All right. Now, Brandon, and I know you heard Greg do a whole big rant there. If you have a response, please go ahead.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're going to agree to disagree on much of the context of where we are, because obviously we're going to be sitting on pretty polar extremes here. Because I don't view a person's sexual desires and their sexual identity on the same class as I do their gender and their race. Their sex life is a behavior, and now we're introducing a protected class that's based more on their behavior leading as part of their identity, and creating practices and activities that are associated with that. And it's a slippery slope when we start to allow to use the force of government to decide when a business has to be forced to do something that may go against a religious belief, or as I believe, actually, I go a step further. We shouldn't have a right to tell a business how to do anything. Why should the business be forced to print T-shirts? Why do I have to be a T-shirt printer? Let's say I print T-shirts and I do my certain thing. I have to print the neo-Nazi shirts. It's the same thing as the gay pride shirts for me. It's a behavior associated with something. It's not in the protected classes for a reason. And I don't believe that. I believe I have the right as a private business owner to say, no, that's just not my thing. Go down the street. No, thank you.
It's not a choice, though.
Now, admittedly. And I will say, I'm not trying to speak for every single one of these florists and bakers. I don't know the conversations that went down. Maybe they are bigoted in their approach. They're full of hate speech. I don't believe that's appropriate. I'm not trying to say that. I don't believe you call people names. I just think you just say, listen, that's something that, you use the example, the Muslims that say, listen, that's not my thing, go somewhere else. I think you can have that civil conversation. I mean, you need to be derogatory. But in most of those cases, and I've read almost all of them, it sounds as though the lawsuits and the pressure is done just to force the situation, just to be hurtful and spiteful. For instance, the floor situation, they were offered free flowers from a shop that was actually closer to their home than the lady that they're suing and they're bankrupting. Same thing with one of the cake owners that was in Europe. I believe it's the Ireland case, where they have to have the gay Bert and Ernie on their cake. Well, they refused to do the cake. Well, someone offered to make a cake that was 3 times the size, 3 times more valuable by price for free for the publicity. And they refuse to do it because they want to bankrupt this cake maker to make a point. And see, that's where I want to come in, and I'm trying to say, I understand what you're saying, Greg, and I respect what you're saying, and we can go back, because then we've gone back to the danger of the Civil Rights Act, because once we chose to make protected classes, this is a slippery slope, because now other people will want to have their class protected. And to me, that to go another step further by allowing the homosexual community to redefine what is now going to be a protected class. They're a protected class. What will be the next protected class? What will be the next protected class?
Well, probably
what is the fallout of saying what they get to call and do? Because we say today they can't tell the church to perform that ceremony, but if we don't keep pushing back, I believe that is part of the next step. And that is why so many of the Christians who are not, I'm not saying they're good debaters and good eloquent, because they're not. They embarrass me many, many times over. But I think that is a very valid concern that many of us share.
All right, now let me talk. Okay, here's my take on the whole thing. First off, I think that if you bake cakes, you should be able to refuse service for any person for any reason whatsoever. But I understand what you're saying, that what's currently on the books right now is law goes, Greg. I totally understand that. However, I disagree with the law, and I'm not going to say, well, it's the law, so they have to do it. I'm going to try to fight that law like I would try to fight any other law that they put on the book. So I don't like the law. I think that the law is bad, and I think that business owners should be able to refuse service for any person whatsoever. But like you said, I don't believe that person is free from the ramifications of their decisions. They should be ultimately responsible for those decisions. And if you are a person that, says, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to make cakes for gay people, then there should be a Big Gay Al's Gay Cakes that opens up right across the street, and people should go and do business with Big Gay Al and his Big Gay Al cakes. You have to use the South Park reference there, but I love the reference. It's funny is that I support the guy to say no, and I support the protester outside that wants to put them out of business by exposing the behavior. I support both because that's how markets work. And I think that the worst thing that the Civil Rights Act has done, and this is by far the worst thing that it's done, is that it hid racism. Instead of having it out in the front so people can be racist, it hid it. It put it underground, which means that you can't decide to not do business with that company because you don't know that company is filled with a bunch of racists because they don't stop you from going in there to do service. We need to get rid of that law because you want to identify those people that are racist and not do business with them. Just like you'd want to identify people if they are doing anything. And again, put it out there. Look, if they're doing something where they're refusing service to somebody and they don't agree with that person, then you should be able to say, okay, if that's the way you guys act, I don't want to do business with you. I do think that there is one huge exception to the law. And this is actually where I will agree with the Civil Rights Act. I halfway agree with the Civil Rights Act because no government agency and no business that gets any money from the government should be allowed to discriminate at all. That they have to accept service for everybody, it doesn't matter. As long as you get a dime from the government, if you're a government agency, then you should actually have to you should have to do business from everybody.
Right.
It's private business owners that I'm talking about here, and if you get a dime from the government, if you get a special tax break, you have to abide by the rules. You have to abide by that. You got to do it for everybody. And I think that the Civil Rights Act shouldn't be eliminated. It should be modified. Mm-hmm. Modified to talk about for the government only. Because the biggest racists, though, or the institutional racism, was the government stuff, not the private businesses. Because you don't fix racism with a law. You don't fix these things with laws. You fix this with human behavior. Human behavior is something different. Now, let me put it back to the cake people. And this is going to sound a little weird, so I'm going to have to let me make sure I say it very, very carefully. It is also my opinion, based off of at least my probably warped understanding of Christianity, that Jesus would actually be baking cakes for the gay people.
No,
Yes.
I don't agree. I don't think Jesus would be baking cakes for any weddings because he would be like, this is a serious situation and not something where we're just going to argue over cakes.
Well, I think Alex has the right point. He just didn't quite articulate it the right way.
Well, was that the first time I've done that, by the way?
No. I think what Alex's point is, tell me if I'm correct here.
Okay.
What example do you have of Jesus ever denying his services to anybody for any reason, whether he agreed with what they were doing or not?
Oh, no. I absolutely think that Jesus himself would love every single person without any, listen, there was at no point any sin that Jesus said, no, you can't be near me because you've committed this sin. So I absolutely agree with you. When it says he be making cakes, no, that's stupid. But
Well, no, and I'm trying to make a light of probably something that I shouldn't be making too light about. I understand that the cake situation with Jesus is a very serious issue when it came to Well, then again, it wasn't the water wine thing though. He was totally down with that. So I think he would be. I don't think he would. Okay, let me just get past this.
yeah, let's get.
I think that if you're a baker, that you should want to do business with everybody, and that you shouldn't want to discriminate anyway. But I would fight for your right to do it, and I would fight for the rights of the people outside to tell you that you're wrong and to try to expose your business to put you out of business. However, the people that called like the pizza place and threatened the pizza place, those people, that's a BS all day long.
That's a different law, though.
And that's it. But no, it's the overall topic of what I'm talking about.
You're absolutely right. There are people who are reacting poorly on both sides of this issue, and people that are making death threats and phone calls, and I'm going to burn down your baker. They're not any better than the other side. But remember that we didn't get the Civil Rights Act because this was being solved naturally. The market forces were not resolving the discrimination issues. That's why we got this law.
The Civil Rights Act came into place because government was discriminating and making one place for one class and one place for another. And the Civil Rights Act was supposed to stop government from doing that. And that's been incorporated onto private business when it shouldn't have been.
Well, whether it should or should not have been is a matter of opinion. The reality is the discrimination was systemic. It was across government, it was across private lines, and it wasn't changing. Natural forces were not changing it. That is the reality. Natural forces were not changing the way discrimination was happening in this country.
They weren't working quick enough. That's true.
Because it was actually changing.
It was changing, but not quick enough.
So that's why this was put into place. And I understand that straight white Christian males have opposed the Civil Rights Act from the beginning and do to this day. But it was not put in for them, it was put in because of them. Because that's the people who were doing the discriminating.
Well, I also
because
don't
that's
support
the superior class.
Well, hold on. Let me just say this, and then we'll get to Brandon. I am a person that truly doesn't give a crap about what a person believes, their sexual orientation, or any of that stuff. I truly could give a crap less. Like, I am really unbiased. In this one, I am unbiased. I don't care what you do. I really don't. It's not like I say I don't care, but deep down I don't really think you should do that. I think it's actually funny. Let me give you a little bit of a story here. I was living in Oldsmar at the time, and the Bucks were playing. And my next door neighbor happened to be gay. And so he invited me over to a football party. And I thought it was very funny that a gay guy was going to invite me over to a football party because it just didn't seem like that would be like what you'd be into. But cool, all right. I was watching a lot of football at the time. And there was nothing I found funnier than when the Bucks scored a touchdown and a dude in an All-Star jersey was kissing a dude in a Lynch jersey. Just got to tell you, hilarious, by the way, just to be able to see that. But at any rate, I firmly believe, though, that, and again, what Danielle said about the Civil Rights Act is actually a very, very good point, by the way, is that the institutional racism was not done by the private industry. It was done by those that were in charge of government and were using the force of government in order to get their way. And that was actually changing in the country was changing, though. And it does take time for those things to happen. So I think that the Civil Rights Act had a need for it at the time as it related towards the government, but it shouldn't have dealt with the policies of the individual, of the business owners. That you had to identify those people, and you have to, don't let people hide their racism. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. You're saying
after you, we got to get to Brandon, by the way.
Just real quick, it may not have been happening fast enough. And again, for the straight white Christian males, they can make that argument. Well, it'll happen. Just give the market time to correct it. See, I grew up in Indiana. My parents grew up in Indiana. The first black man that my father ever saw was hanging from Town Square. So it may not be happening fast enough and lives are on the line. So that's why somebody has to step in. If you're going to let it go out of control and say, well, let the market solve it and let the black people die and let the disabled people,
you can't
No,
use
but
that
that's
argument.
because
though,
that's
Greg.
a different.
Why
Because
not?
murder is still
Because
against the law.
murder's against the
So
law.
that's a completely different argument. Because murder is against the law, no matter who it is. Because that's government can't discriminate. If a black person was murdered, that's just as bad.
But no one was ever held accountable for that murder. And
But then that's government's problem.
Okay. What it comes down to is the institutionalized discrimination and the fact that nobody cares, that this class of people is lesser and we don't have to worry about it. That's why no one was ever charged for that murder. That's why he could hang in town square for a week to scare off any other black people that come into town.
That's a problem with government discriminating, though.
Yeah. Hold on. Go ahead, Ben. Well, hold on. Before we get, because we're going down a whole different road there. Brandon, go ahead.
Okay, let's back up for a minute and
Please.
let's go to where you guys
Please.
threw out a question and they kind of diverted from it. What would Jesus do? Jesus would be opposed to all of it. He would be as libertarian could be. He would have been opposed to the civil rights movement. He would have been opposed to discriminating against the bakers and the race and everything else. He went to the Samaritan woman and said, yeah, I know you discriminate her. I'm going to have a drink with her. Then we're going to meet her whole family and turn and start a revival in the entire area. But the other thing he didn't do was ever turn to the government to solve any of the problems and say, well, we need a law here to protect the Samaritans. You know, at the same time, he would have looked at the baker in the eye and go, really, do you really want to throw that stone? So my point of this is that the free will and the religious freedom is what we really should be standing for. Your free will to be an idiot, your free will to be a bigot, your free will to be a racist, to be perfectly honest. And I have to admit, Greg, I'm a little disappointed that you're reverting back to arguments that sound like a leftist that doesn't want to acknowledge something that happened 50 years ago. There's no way we can compare racism in the 1960s to the way homosexuals were treated in 2015. Even if we line up all of the alleged hate crimes, all the alleged murders, and so alleged things that have happened to homosexuals over the last 25 years or so, it is so marginal and isolated. And again, these are crimes. This is criminal behavior. So whatever could be the fallout of the worst bill that Indiana and Arkansas may have proposed wouldn't warrant blood in the streets and this sort of argument that suddenly we're all going to turn into gay-bashing homophobes. They're going to drag them into the street. And by the way, I'm also from Indiana. Most of my family is still in Indiana as well. We share another thing in common that we may not have known about one another. And I do understand that there is not a lot of Christians that may have lived up to the expectations that they preach. And I've stayed away from religion most of my life for that very reason. And it's a very challenging argument, and I get that. And I understand what you're saying about the civil rights thing, and I know that we want to try to protect the discrimination and protect to give them the rights. But we've drifted so far from what are the rights that they're fighting for. And I made this point to Alex, and Alex said, we didn't even make it a whole day before they proved me right. I said to you, notice the language will be changing from tolerance to inclusion. It's not tolerating things, because tolerating means you still disagree with it, but you're not going to string them up in the tree like ISIS is doing. Now it's about inclusion. And sure enough, Walmart's press release on the Arkansas bill involved the word inclusion, which means if you don't like gay marriage or you don't like homosexuals, you don't like whatever, it doesn't matter. Shut up and do what we tell you to do and treat them the way we tell you you now have to, even if it's against your religion. And my warning to that is it is a slippery slope because government cannot contain themselves. Leftists do not solve things by free market. Leftists solve things by putting more and more laws in place. They can't write bills. They can't contain themselves without legislating way beyond. I'm not trying to let the right off the hook with their morality laws. I got that. But many of those have gone away. Many states have backed off of that, realizing that those are ridiculous laws. You can't legislate morality, when you drink on Sunday, those kinds of things. And Jesus would not support those things. I will agree with the ones that criticize that. Jesus would say, fine, you should not tell him he can't drink. We should let him drink. He has to face the repercussions of what's in his heart and what his Creator will judge him to do, the condition of his heart. You can't do that. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. You worry about yourself. That is the mandate. That is there over and over and over again in Scripture. And the Christians don't want to see that, they're wrong. If the atheists want to attack them and force them to behave a certain way, they're also wrong. And that's where I think that we've gotten to with this entire debate, so to speak.
Yeah. No. We have. Hold on. You probably want something you want to say, Greg, isn't there?
Well, no. See, that's the whole point. I mean, what you're saying, Brandon, is absolutely true. I mean, Jesus would have a completely different perspective on this. You know, Jesus would not kick a gay guy out of his circle that is coming to him for healing, or coming to him for inspiration, or coming to him for anything. Jesus would include
And
him.
we should not.
Jesus
I don't
would.
think the law forces that upon anybody, Greg.
Here's the thing. I'm not talking about the law at this point. I'm talking about the philosophy and what Jesus said and what Jesus taught. Jesus would not tolerate him. He would include him. He would welcome him into his circle. He would give him any healing and give him any insight and try to teach him the love of God. Because Jesus repeatedly also said, love your enemy as you love your brother. Love your neighbor as you love your brother. There is no justification anywhere in the Bible from Jesus's words or his behavior that justifies you saying, no, you're gay. I disagree with that because my church told me to disagree with it, so I'm not giving you my services. I'm not including you.
Okay, let me talk to that. First off, love your neighbor as yourself, because we're selfish individuals and we put ourselves above all others. So if we love others as ourselves, we would show them the kind of respect that we actually demand of ourselves. But he did go a little bit down the road of homosexuality, and it's overlooked because Paul's lines are the ones that are quoted all the time because he talks about sexual immorality. Mm-hmm. It is not that Jesus didn't speak on it, and that somehow makes it okay, because he didn't speak on all sorts of things. It's in Mark 6, he very clearly talks about God's perfect and holy union between a man and a woman. And he criticizes those of us that have gotten divorced and how selfish and evil we are because of our hearts turning away from the holy sacrament of union. Something that I didn't get my head around for many, many years of my life, where I did it completely wrong and have begged for forgiveness and don't know if I will be forgiven because I did it so badly for most of my life. The reality is he set up and he reiterated Old Testament law to say God created a very holy, sacred union between one man and one wife. He didn't say two individuals. He didn't whatever. He said this is the thing that's very sacred and holy. It's not to say that we're trying to throw rocks at the gay. I don't think that we should. And some of them may be born that way. I'm not trying to argue that. But it still is a behavior that could separate them from God, just like many of our other behaviors could be separating us from God. And Jesus would have cautioned them in that way. When he consoled that gay and dined with them, just like he did that tax collector who was evil, those prostitutes who were evil, what did he say? Go and don't sin anymore. Look at my eyes. You'll see God and you'll know there's something wrong there. We can't do that. We can do the best we can of that. And I think we do a horrible job because it's a fine line between being critical, loving someone and saying, listen, I'm not sure you're quite right here because I'm pointing three fingers back at myself when I point one at you. And it has to be a constant thing that we have to be honest with ourselves. But the last thing I want to do is take those fingers when they're not working and they don't go the way I think they do, and Greg, you're not agreeing with me, is to turn to the strong arm of the government to make you believe or to make you behave a certain way. That's the last thing Jesus would do. He would never point to the government. He would never ask the Roman law to change, to force these Jews to behave completely different. That would be the last thing he would have done. And I think this is the danger in the line that's very hard for the Christian community that's trying to explain how the behavior of homosexuality is something that may be separating you from God, just like many, many other sins could. And that's it. Because and I'm okay with if they were born that way, that's fine. But many people don't have sex because of predisposed inklings, a pedophile. Do I believe the pedophile was born that way? I don't know. Possibly. But I would tell that guy, if that's really truly what's in your heart, you can't act on that. There's something evil there that you really cannot behave on. And I'm not saying homosexuals are evil. I'm just saying that there's an evaluation that needs to happen with what could separate you from God when you are judged. And that's, I think, where the hard line is, that especially with a topic like this, it's very difficult to show love and kindness through in a healthy way.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, and that's where my problem is, because you're absolutely right. Jesus would have been loving towards them, and that's the thing. Jesus would have included them, but that doesn't mean that he approves of their behavior. So now we're talking about today baking a cake. What extension of this religious practice is it to say that baking you the cake not only includes you, but it gives you my approval to
sinner's
your
free
gay
will.
marriage. Well, see, that's the thing. By doing this,
The sinner's free will.
But
let Danielle answer your
The
question.
sinner's free will.
But just as Jesus would have accepted the gay person, he would have also accepted the baker refusing service. Because wait a minute.
Correct.
Because every single person has to have the free will to make their own choices in everything. And then they have to atone for it, and they have to be judged for it separately. So the same way that Jesus would accept the gay person would be the same way that the baker refusing service. So it's not right to compare it and say that it's different.
We have to say the free will. The baker has the free will to turn away that gay person. He has the free will to be a bigot. He has the free will to tell that black person, get out of my diner. I don't treat you people, because it's a reflection of his heart. And the last thing we should do is ask that Roman authority, that government authority, to tell him and squash that, because all it actually is going to do is to delay his healing. Because that's what Alex hit the nail on the head with the civil rights law. It is actually an anti-Christian law. I'm really going to put myself out here, folks. This is really going to get me fired, I bet. It's actually an anti-Christian law because it is suppressing an honest evaluation of the hatred that is in their heart. They are hating their brother. If you hate a Muslim, there's something wrong with your heart. If you're hating that black person, there's something wrong in your heart. When Jesus came, he changed the rules. He said the law has been fulfilled. In other words, it's not about your behavior. You know, your behavior was, I can't walk my dog on the Sabbath because the Sabbath day is holy. Now there's more pressure on you to accept his grace and mercy, because he's saying, listen, if you think about trying to do something, it's a reflection of your heart. That's what you'll be evaluated on when you sin before your maker. You know, okay, you're not an adulterer. You didn't go do it. You want a little attaboy on your behind because you actually behaved yourself. Well, not if you're lustful in your eyes. Not if your mind is always thinking about, trying to be with your neighbor's wife, coveting your neighbor's wife, even though you didn't act on it. Your heart is a mess. What is wrong with you people? That was the message from Jesus. He would never have squashed their free will. He would have said, listen, you stand up. Christian brothers and sisters, followers of Christ, they would not have been called Christians yet. You stand together against this Sanhedrin to tell them, no, that's not what we do here. There's something wrong with your heart. And I think that's what, and again, this is a very difficult thing to articulate, and I appreciate having someone who has such a polar, extremely different perspective on things like Greg has articulated, but I actually think we share a lot of common ground, because part of the reason that I think it gets messed up is because Christians don't think this through. They themselves, like many of the left, they want to react by using government. And that's why we've come up with the crazy Christian laws, is because we think that we can legislate it morally.
Well, and actually, Brandon, I think we really do agree here, because I want to point out that it was I who brought up the Civil Rights Act, and it was I who pointed out that if it's about freedom, then that's what we need to get rid of.
Oh, now it's all about Greg.
Well,
now
no,
it's all about Greg.
No. No, my point is, and bringing it back to this law and what's bringing up this discussion, and this is why I disagree with the law that they're putting in place, because we have a law on the books that is the law of the land, that is an anti-discrimination law. And what this law that they're trying to pass in Indiana is going to give special favor from the government, exempting these people from being able to be held responsible for their discrimination. Now, I agree that everyone should be free to make their own decisions, and it is the Civil Rights Act that prevents that. But everyone should have equal protection under the law. That if we're going to protect people from discrimination, then we shouldn't leave people out from that protection of discrimination. So we either get rid of the Civil Rights Act so people can freely discriminate against whoever they want, whenever they want, for whatever reason, or we give everyone equal protection. That's my whole point.
Okay, hold on. I gotta ask you a question here, just because I find it to be funny. So the Federal Civil Rights Act supersedes anything that the states would do, and that the people in those states should just follow the law? Are you including Colorado and Washington State in the marijuana decisions that they've made in something along those lines? Because that would play. The federal government made a call, and the states said, screw you, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it our own way, and you applaud those decisions.
Right.
Hold on. And I want to speak to this point, because the Civil Rights Act was supposed to be a prohibition on government treating people differently because of their religious creed or their race or anything like that. It was supposed to be just an issue of stopping government from discriminating. And the reason why it was incorporated to private business is because they incorporated and got government protection. And as soon as you incorporated and you received that government protection, that made you an agency of the government in a certain manner, and that's why it was put onto them. But now private businesses that did not incorporate were not under the same Civil Rights Act. So the whole point of the Civil Rights Act was a prohibition on government. And if a business says, I want government protection against the public, then a business accepts those same prohibitions. But that if a private business didn't incorporate, didn't get the protection of government, didn't get any money from government, that they would still be allowed to discriminate. And laws like this just reiterate that you, as long as you're not getting government protection, that you do still have the right to do that.
Okay.
And they hold you ransom because you can't get protection of your personal assets running a business, keeping your business separate from your personal assets, unless you incorporate. And then by doing so, you take on that burden.
No, that's great. Now hold on, because we only got 9 minutes left here, and there's something else I wanted to get to. There was an overall point I wanted to make.
Oh my.
The overall point I wanted to make was actually aimed more at the Christians than anybody else on this one. And it's this thing right here. I believe that in the culture war sense that they're losing the war.
Absolutely.
However, it's only because they're fighting the wrong battle. The only reason they're losing is because they're fighting the wrong battles.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I wanted Brandon's take on what I was going to say here. Because I think that, let's put the gay marriage question out there. The actual solution that all of us everybody out here would agree to, is that the right solution is that instead of saying we're going to allow for gay marriage, is to say that but government recognizes no more marriages. The only thing the government recognizes is contract law, because that's the only thing we were supposed to recognize anyway. And so if you want something that the government recognizes, then you just sign a contract, and that's all it's called. However, the beauty of that is that solves another major problem in the country. That the actual solution fixes other things too, because gay people would have to agree, unless they are going to expose themselves for the stuff that other people would accuse them of doing. Expose themselves.
Keep your pants on, Alex.
Keep your pants on. Here's the thing. If we say we're taking the stick of gum away from everybody and it's contract law, family court goes away. Because contract law is dealt with in the courts, not in civil court or civil court, not in family court. So you can eliminate family court by eliminating the government recognizing marriage altogether. And everybody gets their way. The churches can do whatever they want to do. The government doesn't officially recognize anybody being gay, and everybody can right to contract.
And I will say this, that it is much better to settle a contract between two people when they like each other rather than when they don't like each other.
True. So things like gay marriage, where that's the big argument right now, and if you're on the side of saying that marriage is between one man and one woman, in the eyes of the law, you're losing, and you're losing big time. And there is no possible way that they're going to win. They're just not. That argument is pretty much done. Like, it's going to be where two gay guys or two gay girls can get married, and that's just going to be the way it is. The only thing that is the saving grace now that can make everybody at least somewhat happy is to move it to contract law, which is where it should be to begin with. Like, this is not, again, I don't care. Don't give a crap whatsoever. Not going to marry a gay guy, but you know what, though? That's because I'm not gay. Not saying that if John Stamos or somebody else didn't come and talk to me, that I wouldn't want to have that conversation with Stamos, because, he's a good-looking dude. But, like what I'm saying is, though, it's kind of funny. But
this
I
is
think
a long-running joke in our house, by the way. You have to understand
it's really going down the wrong
backstory of what, there's a long joke in our house.
I'll stop now and I'll just ask Brandon.
Please.
Do you hear what I'm saying, Brandon? And do you have any agreement with me on this?
Well, haven't I said that several times on the show that would be my preference, right? We could unwind all this. We either have a choice. We can unwind all this, or we can make a little simple 3-page document, because it's easier to get a little marriage license than it is to actually be responsible for what happens between that relationship if it fails. Obviously, I did it wrong. So, wouldn't it be easier to say, listen, there's a little 3-page document you sign. Here's your little marriage license. Here's your little prenuptial agreement. And here's your will. so we can eliminate all this legal mumbo jumbo and all this stuff that goes through, and then you guys can go off and have whatever service you want and whoever. It doesn't really matter to us. We don't want any part of it. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to go by less government. I mean, obviously, neither party's going to. The powers that be aren't going to, and that kind of thing. And that's the problem. And I think that, yes, ideally, absolutely, I would love to unravel some of this and say, listen, we've been fighting. I've been saying to my church, we've been fighting the wrong fight. You guys don't pay attention to elections until 4 years. You guys don't pay attention to these type of bills, this type of legislation until it actually affects you. Meanwhile, we've had all these red flags and warning signs for years. And that's the problem with the Christian church. They've been hijacked by the right wing and the politics for years. And I think that the age of the internet has made it a little bit easier to communicate with them and try to appeal to a more common sense approach to politics, but it's still an uphill battle. And I still think there's a separation. There's another topic that Alex, you and I discussed. I don't know if you want to get there real quick, and that was, when you go down the road of these kinds of things, it becomes a very fine line of, are you trying to participate in it? Are you endorsing it? Are you into things that I'm not going to approve of? And will that be enough to separate me from supporting you or not?
Yeah, no. You're absolutely right. That is another part of it, and we talked about that when it came to this. This has more to do with how the LP should go out and do things. Is where this kind of started from, and we're not going to get into the specifics of this argument, but basically is to say our organization, the Libertarian Party, and this is kind of the point I'm making. This is the answer that I think, when it comes to the marriage thing, that I think that the vast majority of the people actually agree with. Our opinion is your average American's opinion, is that I don't care about it. And if you told them, the government doesn't have to deal with this anyway, a lot of times they go, oh, really? I didn't know that. Well, why don't we just do that then? Like they're ready to have that as the right way to go. It is behoove of us as libertarians to go out and to preach the word, pardon lack of a better term, to go out there. But we have to go to everybody, though. So we have to go to the churches, but we have to go to gay pride events. We have to go to black churches. We have to go to any place that will take us. We have to go there, but we're not going there necessarily in support of their agenda. We're actually going there to talk to them about our agenda, and that we should be there talking to these people about our agenda, because we need to be talking to the unconverted. Not to get all preachy on you on a Friday here, on Good Friday. But we need to go and speak with the people that are the unconverted, because we need to bring them over. And we need all of them. Like, it ain't like we can go, well, we really don't need the gays. No, we need you. We really don't need the blacks. No, we need you. We need you to understand where we're standing on these issues. We need you to understand the lies that you've been told about us. But we need you. We need you. Because we need your participation in what we do. Because it requires all of us voluntarily associating with one another in order to fix this mess. And I think that that's the message that everybody needs to understand. Look, the Libertarian Party is unique because we support the gay couple's right to own firearms to protect their marijuana crop. Incorporate all of it because it's all right there. That's what we support. And we also support the Christian guy across the street that thinks that what they're doing is wrong. As long as you don't want to use the government to go mess with them, and as long as that person doesn't want to use the government to make that person think that he was right, overall, we got to be fine with everybody just the way that they are. We just have to all agree that the government doesn't play a role in most of the stuff that the government is currently playing a role in right now, and that our job collectively is to remove that government stuff as much as humanly possible and allow human progress to happen naturally and happen via market-driven forces. Amen. God bless America.
Well, we're going to have to go to break. Brandon, what do you want to say in closing?
Well, I mean, I think that really the last statement is really where I kind of come down, and why I think that people want to know why I'm part of the show and where I'm like-minded with you at home. And that's really it in a nutshell. I don't believe in the force of government to do these things. I, as a Christian, don't believe that the force of government is going to prove to you the lessons and teachings of Jesus Christ. I don't think so. And by the way, the Global Dispatch has a whole lot more to read and talk about than all the gay marriage stuff that we've been talking about this morning. So.
Brandon, it was a pleasure having you on, brother. I really do love it every time you're on. This subject was one of the ones, I went better than I thought it was going to go. I looked at these guys' faces this morning, I'm like, oh, crap, we're in trouble. But Brandon from the Global Dispatch, theglobaldispatch.com. Brandon, thanks for joining us, brother.
All right, thank you, guys. Talk hard.
Talk hard. All right, let's take a break, man. Oof. God, we made it through it. Oh, boy. I did not know how it was going to go. How do you guys feel?
No, I told you it wasn't going to be bad.
What about
Yeah,
you, Greg?
we love Brandon. We're not. I mean,
I listened to you guys beforehand. I didn't know.
we all love each other. We may disagree on things, but we do love and respect each other. So I mean, that's.
I'm gonna give you a big man hug after this.
Just keep your pants on.
All right, hour number 3 is coming up. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with camera. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richie today at 727-376-0030.
This is Liberty Underground with Alex Snicker, Danielle Alexandra, and Greg Bowen on the 1787 Radio Network.
Good morning, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. This is Alex, co-host Liberty Underground. Along with me, the Duchess of Doing Stuff, Tallahassee's favorite libertarian, Danielle Alexandra. Danielle, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. Good to hear you doing good. Also in studio with us, managing the boards as well as he does, is the Prime Minister of the Sinister, Greg Bowen. Greg, how are you doing, sir?
Fabulous.
Oh, he's fabulous.
Oh, there you go.
He started with the fab. Let me give you a coaster, by the way.
I have a coaster under the...
Oh, you do? That was a hidden coaster, though. Okay. I got you. Our website is 1787network.com, 1787network.com. Third hour of the show, which is played live on Tan Talk 1340. We are going to be discussing Tallahassee. Danielle's favorite place, by the way. I mean, she loves Tallahassee. She has a I Love Tallahassee shirt that she wears all the time.
I do No, I don't have anything of the sort. I mean, I actually, as far as the city goes, I think it's pretty up there. I do like Tallahassee. The weather is generally nice. Except in some of the winter months, it's really cold. Because it's a lot colder up there than it is here. But, as a city, it's very pretty. I think it's nice. Their red light cameras are a little out of hand.
You think?
There is one corner. It's the corner of Tennessee and Monroe, which is really close to the Capitol building, where it's like the paparazzi are there because the cameras go off so often.
It is it is totally the paparazzi's there.
It is, and I mean, people think like, oh, that's just a big, exaggeration. It's totally not. Like, all you see as you pull up there, like cameras going off on all corners all the time.
It's like Lady Diana's driving through Tallahassee.
Yeah, it's a crazy corner, and everyone complains about it when you get into the building, and it actually causes so many more accidents than it's doing anything, because everyone, as soon as they see it turn yellow, slams on their brakes because everybody has gotten a ticket.
Yeah.
And the yellow goes so quickly that nobody wants to even try to get under it, even as soon as it turns yellow. Even though probably one or two cars could get through, nobody tries. Everybody slams on their brakes.
And you get the rear end collision.
Exactly.
Yep.
This is why red light cameras don't work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But when it comes to Tallahassee, Danielle, currently the legislature is in session, which means that none of us are safe.
Right.
And there's a lot going on up there right now. And so today I thought what we would do, and what you thought would be a good idea too.
Because I wrote it on the board.
You wrote it on the board. is to really go down what's going on up in Tallahassee. What's being done under your name by our elected representatives.
Now, where do you want to start? Because there's a lot of things. We can go with guns. We can go with education. There's just some... there's election stuff.
Why don't we go in order of the Bill of Rights and which rights under the Bill of Rights they're infringing upon?
Oh, yeah. Are they trying to violate anything that would be considered under the First Amendment?
Well, my whole screen just went blank here. But, I guess it just depends on what you want to put in there. I'm sure that there is. But one of the things that Governor Rick Scott is trying to kill the legislation of is an online voter registration. Now, this bill would actually would set up a system that would actually not open until 2017. So it would be 2 years out if it were to go. But it would not allow for your original registration to be done online. So if you have never registered to vote in the state of Florida, you would still not be able to vote to register online. They would have to, when you go and first move to a county or when you first register to vote, you do have to go down to the supervisor of elections office or the DMV because they do need your signature. But after that, if you wanted to make changes or you wanted to change parties, you moved like down the road, you were still in the same county, you would be able to do these things online instead of having to go in person or go into the DMV. You'd be able to do this online. And Rick Scott is trying to, behind the scenes, kill this piece of legislation. And many people are saying it's because he doesn't want more voters able to vote in the 2018 race because he's going to run for Senate.
Well, I kind of agree that there's a rationale why they're against this. I'm totally for this, by the way. I'm totally for you being able to change things online. Could you imagine how much easier it would be to get people to switch over libertarian if I could literally give them a link and have them go in there and switch their voter registration as a third party? Even if I was a Democrat or Republican, I would still, for the same reasons, think that this was a good idea.
And you just articulated why he's against it.
Yeah. And the reason that why he's against it, and also why I think there's a lot of Republicans, and I think there's going to be some Democrats that are against this too. The reason why is those guys know that the names of their parties are not necessarily the good name going on right now. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of that, and people want to leave their parties. And so anything that would simplify the process of the exit of the Democrat and Republican parties is not something that's going to be able to pass through a Republican or a Democrat-controlled legislature.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bill is moving, and I don't know if it's, it's moving through, if it's, going to become a law. But 24 other states do this. I mean, it's not like this is unheard of. And, I always love that, like, Florida talks about how, we have all these freedoms and less taxes and all this other stuff. But, like, whenever we talk about regulations, we're always, like, one of the last people to get on board of, like, good stuff. Like, you can register online. Well, we can't do that. It's so insecure. Well, 24 other states do it. We're kind of behind. Or, when we talk about self-distribution of craft breweries, well, we can't do that. Well, we're only like one of 10 states that don't.
Yeah. No. It's a good bill. We should do it. They're not going to do it. And Rick Scott, and I can't believe this authoritarian psychopath is seriously thinking about running for the U.S. Senate.
All of the things that he's doing would indicate that he is going to run for the Senate. I don't know if he's going to or not. I mean, it really is going to depend on where his poll numbers are as governor when it comes to the end of his term, which I am going to expect to be much further down than they are right now, and they're not good right now. So, but not only this, and Rick Scott and is, I'm a fiscal conservative and, jobs. And so there's another battle that they're having. And this is one of the things that most of the GOP was like, when you heard people say how they were going to, support Rick Scott, they were like, well, he won't allow Medicaid expansion and he's going to fight Obamacare, which a Medicaid expansion would be allowing the exchange to somewhat start dealing in Florida. And they're so worried that the Florida House is so worried that Rick Scott would not veto Medicaid expansion that they're just trying to block it as they can. So there is a huge budget battle going on because the Senate, which is also Republican controlled, has put in $4 billion for Medicaid expansion.
Very curious that they would do this. Please continue.
So the House approved their budget this week, which would be $76.2 billion. The Senate budget, which is very similar in some respects, but not all, is $80 billion. And the discrepancy is largely because the Senate has approved, again, Republican-controlled Senate, has approved Medicaid expansion. The House, who is very worried that Rick Scott would not veto the Medicaid expansion because Governor Scott has a line item veto over the budget, so he could just take that out without vetoing the entire budget, just take out Medicaid expansion. But they're so worried that Rick Scott would not do that, and he has made statements saying that he would not do that, that they are trying to block that provision from being into the budget given to Rick Scott.
Well, Rick Scott has become wealthy by ripping off Medicare and Medicaid. Why would he not expand it to expand his opportunity to become wealthier and rip off more of these government dollars?
Oh, Rick Scott has spoken in favor of the Medicaid expansion before, though.
Yeah, well, he was for it and then against it and then for it and then kind of indifferent to it.
I was against it before I was for it.
So he was like, yes, we need to expand Medicaid. Oh, no, that would be bringing Obamacare in. No, it's bad. Then it's, well, there's all these uninsured people. Maybe we should. And then it was, I'd like to create jobs.
Yeah, jobs have to be there in some way, shape, manner, or form. Hey, I wonder if Rick Scott understands that the government doesn't create jobs. But.
You know, and the thing is he did go, before the 2014 race, he did make comments on Medicaid expansion. I mean, he said, yes, we have to have this conversation. Then it was, no, there's no way we can allow this. When he was asked on the campaign trail in 2014, he was like, this is an important issue, and that's why we're bringing jobs to Florida. And everyone went, well, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Fire the jobs cannon.
Bring out the job circus.
So nobody expects Rick Scott to veto the Medicaid expansion if it gets through the budget. So the House Republicans, some of them, are saying that they're going to, fight hard. But, the budget, because there is always a discrepancy in the budgets. So this does end up going to a joint committee.
Most of the time.
Every time. There's never a time where it's the same on both sides.
I got you.
So this will go to a joint budget committee later on once the House will pass their version. The House just approved their version on Thursday. The Senate approved their version earlier this week. So now it's going to go to the joint committee, and they'll kind of iron out the differences. But
it never goes back to the other. It never goes back to the House and the Senate though. From the joint committee, from the joint committee, it goes to the governor. Right.
Right. Whatever the joint committee says goes.
So the House will be able to have cover. And they can get it done through the joint committee and still get it done.
Yeah, they can. Now, there are, the House Appropriations Chairman is Richard Corcoran, and he is basically saying that they're going to stand firm on this. They're not letting it go through.
Hold on, though. But
he would be a part of that joint committee.
So what do you think is going to happen, though?
I don't know. I think we may see maybe a smaller version of Medicaid expansion. Maybe it just won't be all of it. I really don't know how we're going to end up in the end of this, because I do think that the House is going to hold very firm on it, because in a joint committee session, in a budget committee session, it's going to be the Speaker of the House. It's going to be Richard Corcoran, because he's the House Appropriations Chairman. There's going to be some people who are very adamant about not doing this that are going to be on that joint committee. So I think it is going to be a big fight, and I think that maybe we'll get an abbreviated version as a way to compromise, but I don't think you're going to see full Medicaid expansion come this year.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. What else is going on out there?
The gun legislation, and this is one that we've talked about, this would allow people who have a concealed weapons license already to be, and anyone who were to get one in the future, would be able to carry concealed on a college campus.
State college campus.
In a state college campus, yeah. Private college that's taking no government funds would still be able to prohibit them, but on any state college campuses, then they would be allowed to carry them. Now, this is something that, because we did have the shooting at Florida State University, very shortly before the session opened, and this is what spurred this debate, is because this is a bill that's kind of come through many, many times and has always been never even heard in a committee, or heard one time and kind of dies. And the reason why people are talking about this is that there was a concealed carry. There was someone licensed to concealed carry that did not have his weapon on the campus. He was one of the first people to be shot at. And so he would have basically stopped the shooter. If he had been able to have his weapon on him, he could have stopped the shooter before the shooter ever even entered into the library to shoot all those people.
I wish people understood that, when you have people go out there and talk about how, we can't have any more deaths as it relates towards, gun violence and not one more. Look, I don't want there to be anybody that dies because of violence, somebody's violence against somebody else. But that doesn't change the fact that it's going to happen. I mean, I could wish for, I could wish for anything, and it doesn't mean I'm going to get it. What happens is you have to be prepared, and that by and large, and it's like 99.9% of the time, people that have concealed carry permits obey the law, and if they are armed in an area where there is a mass shooting that happens, the number of people that are killed go down tremendously because those people are armed and because they are there and that they're armed. That if your goal is to make sure that we have as little death as possible, this is the way to do it. Whether you like it or not, whether it fits your sensibilities or not, doesn't change the fact, and I say fact, not opinion, fact, that if a concealed carry holder is in a place that a mass shooting is taking place, that the number of people that are killed go from 14
to 3.
to 3. So you go to the 11 parents that have to bury their kid because you don't like guns and tell them that we shouldn't have a concealed carry holder in there because we shouldn't have the guns in there. Because the criminals ain't going to listen to the criminals ain't going to listen to you. So you go and you tell the families of that. I'm getting sick and tired of these people standing on the graves of dead kids. So I'm going to go ahead and just tippy-toe on it myself here for a second and just say, why don't you tell them why we shouldn't have the guns there? Because what I'm telling you right now is a fact. It ain't a matter of opinion. You can disagree with it if you want to, but you'd be wrong. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My bad.
Well, can I play devil's advocate on this for a second?
Go
Because
ahead.
I agree with everything you just said,
Yeah.
and I agree with the bill.
Yeah.
But to play devil's advocate, because there is a valid argument here that I at least think is worthy of giving credence to.
Sure.
And so say that person was allowed to carry. So the shooter starts going off. So this other guy was allowed to carry. He pulls out his gun and he starts shooting. Someone else potentially has a gun and he pulls out his gun and starts shooting. Now the cops walk in on this situation and it's basically turned into a shootout. Do the cops know who the bad guy is?
Very interesting question. Go ahead, Danielle.
That has never happened before in any of these situations. So in a situation where there's been someone that has wanted to perpetrate a mass shooting, when there is someone who's there concealed carry, they generally stop the shooter within the third death or injury without there being a big shootout. And that's never happened. But when there isn't someone, when it's in a gun-free zone, generally that person will get to kill or harm 14 people before police can react. And 14 people is in the best of situations, is that it will get between 10 and 14 people. So while I guess that is something that could happen, it hasn't. And we have had mass shootings with someone trying to perpetrate a mass shooting where there has been concealed carriers there, and there have been multiple concealed carriers there who all shot the same person. So that situation, I guess, is possible. It just hasn't, statistically, it would be an anomaly because it hasn't happened, even though there have been multiple concealed carriers in a place where someone's tried to perpetrate a mass shooting.
Let me use a little weird little quote in order to kind of answer your question. When seconds count, the police are minutes away. It'll be over with by the time the police get there. Like, that guy's not going to still be shooting people when the police get there. However, you have seen instances where you have a guy with a gun that's holding another guy down, and the police do show up, though. And normally what the police do is they don't just instantly start shooting that guy. They assess the situation because they realize if the guy's holding him there and he's not shooting, then more than likely they're making it. It's not like it's a trick, like it's a trap for when the cops come, that I got my gun out and then I'm just going to turn and start shooting on the cops.
Right.
Like that guy's holding the dude hostage right there and saying, okay, you don't move, and then the cops come, and that guy normally just puts his gun away at that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. A concealed carry owner knows, they walk in on that. So he's going to put his hands up. He's going to put his gun down. He's going to lay down. He's going to comply.
Right.
And he's going to let the cops sort this out because he knows he's in the right.
Yeah.
And like I said, I agree with the law and I agree with what you're saying and everything. But that I do think
like
that
devil's advocate.
Yeah, but I do think that's the only valid concern that I've heard raised to this law that I think is at least worth discussing and is at least a situation that is worth thinking about. I don't think that possibility trumps the rights of gun owners and concealed carry permit owners, and I do think that it still would be a safer place. But I do think it's a valid question.
It's a valid question, and I think it would have more validity if it had ever happened, or if there was never a situation with multiple concealed carry people in the same place. But since there have been, mass shootings with multiple concealed carriers, and that hasn't ever happened, but the perpetrator has been killed, sometimes by multiple concealed carry people, I would think that statistics would say that that's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. I also will say this, is that the private universities, if they don't want to allow concealed carry weapons holders to be concealed and carrying on their campus, I think they should be allowed to do that. I think they should be allowed to make that determination if they want to.
As long as they're not taking any government money.
As long as they're not taking any government money. Yeah, as long as they're not taking the government money. Which is, look, I want there to be a lot more freedoms on people that don't take the government money than the people that do take the government money. I mean, if you listen to the whole show today, because there's 2 hours before this hour on Tan Talk, is that's a common theme. I want you to be free to do whatever you want to do, but you start taking money from the government, you're going to be a little restricted on what you're allowed and not allowed to do.
So this bill is moving through the House, but actually, very well. Just passed the Judiciary Committee this week. It is kind of stalled in the Senate. The Judiciary Committee, the chairman Miguel de la Portilla, who is down in South Florida, is not hearing it right now, not putting it on the agenda. But it has been voted favorably in 2 other Senate committees, so they could pull this up from the floor. So the Senate actually could still pull it up, especially if the House version passes through the 3rd reading and goes over to the Senate. I think that you will see them just pull it from the floor and be able to vote on it. So I don't think it's not a dead issue. It would be if the Senate hadn't heard it at all. But there have been some committees that have voted favorably, so it's not a dead issue, and this very well could end up becoming law this session.
Which is a good thing.
I do. I actually see it as a good thing.
All right, now do you want to go to the next subject, or do you want to take a break?
Why don't we got like 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes, take a break,
now?
and then we'll come
All
back.
right, let's take a break. We'll come back, and we'll get into the rest of the stuff that's going on in Tallahassee. There's a ton of things, very important issues that are going on in Tallahassee that you need to be aware of. So make sure you're tuning in. You're listening to Liberty Underground.
Hi, this is Gary Johnson, and you're listening to the 1787 Radio Network.
Facts about the red light cameras. Fact, you are guilty until proven innocent. The Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution grants you the presumption of innocence. Fact, red light cameras cause accidents. Accidents are up on an average of 40% at intersection with cameras. Fact, cameras punish technical foul violations. Over 80% of tickets are written when the red light is on, under 1/2 second. Join the fight at www.banthecams.org. www.banthecams.org.
Liberty starts with a like. Facebook.com/Liberty Underground.
If you received a ticket in Florida, contact Oropesa Law Offices, 800-774-9883 or tacklemyticket.com. Attorney Oropesa understands the stress associated with being charged with a traffic ticket. In many non-criminal ticket cases, there may be no court appearance, no points, and no traffic school. Attorney Oropesa handles criminal violations, DUI, and license suspension matters. Don't face these serious legal matters alone. Initial consultation is free. Call now and you will be advised about any potential defense, constitutional rights violations, the possibility of having your driving privileges restored, or preventing a suspension from going into effect. If you've been classified as a habitual traffic offender, have a driver's license suspension matter, or a pending DUI case, call Oropesa Law Offices now so you can be advised about your particular case. Call 1-800-774-9883 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or visit tacklemyticket.com. Main office in Pinellas County and serving all of the Tampa Bay area. Find out more at tacklemyticket.com. Mention Liberty Underground and get 25% off.
You know Going Postal offers shipping with UPS, FedEx, and DHL International, and they're a full-service post office. And Going Postal is not just your one-stop shop for shipping. They offer copying, laminating, faxing, packaging, and they even have a notary public service. Visit our friends at Going Postal at the following convenient locations: Palm Harbor at the corner of Tampa Road and County Road 1 in the Sweet Bay Plaza, St. Pete on 66th Street just south of Tyrone Boulevard near Publix, and be sure to visit their newest location at 35595 US 19 North at Alderman Road next to Publix in Palm Harbor.
When the unthinkable happens, it doesn't matter if you save money in 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if your neighbor has the same insurance you do. In this moment, what matters is the quality of your independent agent and the company that stands behind them. Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. For award information, go to jdpower.com. Call Row Insurance in Newport Richie today at 727-376-0030.
Welcome back to Liberty Underground, 1787 Radio Network, 1787network.com, 1787network.com. More from Tallahassee. Go ahead, Danielle.
So right now,
can you tell it in a story of like a fairy tale?
No.
Damn it.
So, we always hear about how, we subsidize farming and in many places, the sugar industry gets large amount of subsidies, and we give corn large amount of subsidies, and almost just about any agricultural place we're giving large amount of subsidies. But Florida farmers are being paid for something a little different now. They're being paid to hold water. Just hold it.
What?
Yeah.
Like if you're bloated? No. Like, are they holding water like personally, like in their bodies?
No, actually just on their property.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's better than the other. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just hold water. This is something that's come from Commissioner Adam Putnam, Agriculture Commissioner Adam Putnam. So now we're subsidizing farmers to just hold water, and they're saying that that's less that creates these reservoirs that they need so that we have water sustainable for years to come. But there's a little bit of backlash from this, because what they're saying is that if government just put reservoirs on the land that they already own, that it would be far less expensive than what they're actually paying to the farmers.
Well, and I read a little bit about this one, and it seems like, and this happens with every one of these subsidies, that they're talking about, well, your average farmer gets to get it. The percentage of people that are like your average farmer getting this is very, very, very low, if any at all. And that it's really big business that's getting these subsidies.
It's U.S. Sugar. I mean, listen, we can call it we could say big business, but let's call it what it is. U.S. Sugar is making a ton of money on federal subsidies because they're U.S. Sugar, and then again on state subsidies to hold water in reservoirs.
Yeah, to not do the sugar.
Right.
The U.S. Sugar isn't like U.S. water holders. It's U.S. Sugar. They're supposed to make sugar.
Yeah. So, that's one of the things that's kind of being ironed out. Right now we are paying it. We'll see it go through the budget process to see if they're paid as much to hold water on their farmland, which if you wanted to irrigate your crops,
having water being held there is probably a good idea and would have just been a good idea anyways. But the fact that government will pay you to do that is even more, and you're getting paid to grow the sugar.
Yeah. These guys are getting it coming and going. You wonder why we pay so much money to the... Yeah, it's funny. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Libertarians are not pro-business. Libertarians are pro-markets. And we don't agree with these decisions. As a matter of fact, we think that decisions like this have to go.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
And another thing, why are our elected officials so arrogant to think that they can actually do something to stop nature? Like that they can make a law that stops nature. I mean, think about it. Like plants are illegal. Rivers that go crooked have to be straightened. And they think that there's no ramifications to these decisions. And this happens on both sides. This is not just a Democrat issue. This is a Republican issue because they're both arrogant enough to think that they can do something about this stuff instead of letting nature take its course.
Because there's no line that authoritarian psychopaths will not cross. They think they can control everything and everyone, not just the people, but all of it.
Nature was just doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Why do they think they have the answer?
Mother Nature's just ignorant.
You can't deliver the mail right.
Right. When I can send a letter and know that it's going to get to the place I'm sending it to beyond a shadow of a doubt, then maybe we could talk about you taking on some other responsibilities. Yeah. But right now, I can't even guarantee that if I send a letter, it will get to the place I need it to go.
You people can't deal with Article 1, Section 8. Let's not add to it. You guys can't deal with that stuff. I mean, it's funny every time you hear this. You're like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to put the excess water on people's land, and we're going to pay them for it. Why do you think that's a good idea? What? I thought marijuana was illegal because you guys got to be on some heavy stuff in order to think that this was a good idea. I think Putnam and Bondi and Atwater and Rick Scott are all sitting in like there's a back chamber to where they sit up in Tallahassee, and they're just like, okay, man, I got an idea. Okay, hold on. All right, we got this Lake Okeechobee thing, right? And it overflows all the time, man. So let's take the water. Hold on. Let's take the water, man, and let's go ahead and put it in other people's land and let it sit there, and we'll pay him for it. Like we'll give him money, and we'll sit him there. What do you think about that, Bondi? Here, take a hit. I'll puff give. I'm sorry, I was messing up the rotation.
Here's the thing: is maybe they're so opposed to cannabis legalization because they want to hoard all the cannabis for themselves.
There could be a thought there.
They want to retain the water because they need it for their bongs.
Exactly. So, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And we're paying farmers to farm, and then we're paying farmers to hold water.
And not
waters their farm.
Yeah. Well, and look, and the most important point here is the one that I said earlier, which is these subsidies go to big business.
Yeah.
They don't go to your regular average farmer.
They're going to U.S. Sugar. And almost explicitly to U.S. Sugar. Like nobody else is getting this except U.S. Sugar Land.
And you know why? Because they got lobbyists in Tallahassee that say, well, why don't you do this? And they give us the money.
Yeah.
I would support it if they made it funny and said, well, you're only going to retain water for about a week once a month.
Oh, Greg, you got like a ding? You got ding.
No, my sound effects thing isn't working.
That would have been good if you had that. If you had that at the ready, it would have been even funnier. All right. What else is going on, Danielle? What other businesses are they giving a bunch of money to?
Well, one of the big things that everybody has been talking about this session, and especially these last few weeks, with the school year coming to an end, these standardized tests being rolled out, is education. And so this is it was a very confusing time this week for anyone who doesn't understand how ridiculous the process of getting a law through is. So I have had to field a lot of questions over what just happened this week with education. I think it was last week we talked about the education bill that passed in the Florida House.
The Florida House passed their version. It was a done deal. They were done. Now there was some other education bills that came up that are not about high stakes testing or curriculum or anything like that. So, we'll go into those at a later time. I didn't find them to be as important as these bills. So the House passed their version. The Senate version, which was the companion, was very different. In fact, it was much better. And through the committee process, it kept getting better. So every time there was amendments, there was some really good amendments proposed. Those amendments were taken into consideration. Some of them passed. So as we move through this process, a bill that was better than the House version from the start was getting better and better for students and teachers. Then we had the rollout of the Florida Standards Assessment Test, which was an abject failure throughout the entire state. And we thought, well, great, our case is really strong now because we have seen what you have proposed and it has failed miserably. And that now there was questions on whether the test was even valid. A couple weeks ago, the first rollout of the Florida Standards Assessments was in writing, which basically the writing assessment, you get a prompt, which will ask a open-ended question, and you have to write about it. Well, because of the technology failures, many children went onto their computer, got to see the question, and then the computer shut down. The technology failed. They didn't get to write anything. And so then the next day, now they get to think about this for 24 hours. They've seen the question. They get to think about it for 24 hours. They go in the next day, and the question didn't change. It was the same question. And so now they've had 24 hours to contemplate this question, and then they write about it. Other students who tested later on in the week, when there wasn't technology failures, saw the question and had to write about it on the spot without getting that 24 hours to think about it. Mm-hmm. Which would mean that some students received an unfair advantage. So the validity of the entire test has now come into question. And our senators have decided to ignore that some students got a very unfair advantage in this testing, and that would call into question the validity of the whole test. And so what happened this week is we saw Senator Legg's bill, SB 616, went up for a vote went up for discussion on the Senate floor. It was the second reading. They don't vote in the second reading. And so as this was going through, it was going to be heard on Wednesday. They had till Tuesday at 5 o'clock to propose all the amendments. Senator Hayes and Senator Mumford combined proposed some very strong amendments that would make them go back and show that the test was invalid and eliminate third grade retention for this year. Because what's going on right now is that if a third grader scores a level 1 or a level 2 on a standardized test, they're automatically held back. There's no questions asked. They have to do third grade over. This would take that provision out for this year, saying that there's no way that the test is valid. Some kids got an advantage over others, so you can't retain third graders. You just can't do it for the whole year based on testing. Now, if they got straight Fs through their whole school year, then you could still retain them, but you couldn't retain them based on the test. And that was good. We were very supportive of that. At the very last minute, like I said, the deadline was 5 o'clock. At 4:58, Senator Legg proposed an amendment. And it was what we call a strike-all amendment. A strike-all amendment takes all of the wording out and replaces it. So that means the bill is not the same anymore. And his amendment would go first because it's a strike-all. It would take away all the wording. The next day, because he did that so late in the day, the next day they got, in the morning, they could propose amendments onto his strike-all amendment. Some of the people that had proposed amendments, like Senator Bullard, did that. So whatever they proposed originally on Tuesday, they were proposing again on Wednesday. Senator Mumford and Senator Hayes decided not to do that. So once Senator Legg's bill strike-all amendment passed, all of their other amendments, the very, very strong protections for third graders, were voided. So now the Senator Legg's bill completely matched word for word the House bill, which did not have the protections for our third graders and for our teachers that we wanted. So the Senate decided to just take up the House bill instead of having their own version and vote on that, and that has passed. So we do not have as good a bill as we thought we were going to have. However, the bill that we do have is still better than the situation that we have in our schools right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is. However, you can see that these guys really are trying to do the least amount that they possibly can while still trying to admit that they did something.
Yes.
And that sucks.
And this is the very, very least that they could do.
Like they accomplished that goal.
Yes. When we say that they're going to do the very least to say that they've done something, this bill is the very least.
Yeah. The absolute least.
But we can't ignore that it does do some positive things. It doesn't fix any situation completely. It doesn't do anything that we could be like, yay, this was, great. But it does do some positive things. The teacher evaluations up until this bill passed would have relied 50% on the grades of the test. So that means a teacher, 50% of her evaluation would simply be how her students did on the standardized tests.
On one test.
So when you say, I don't want teachers just teaching to the test, 50% of their evaluation is based on that. So they're going to teach to it.
Yeah, so they're exactly right. So what they're going to do is teach to the test.
Teach to the test. They don't feel like they have any other choice.
Yeah.
Now, that was reduced with this bill from being 50% to being 33%. So it goes from being half of their evaluation to a third of their evaluation. They're still going to be largely teaching to the test, but they will have some more flexibility. It also does allow for school districts to come up with some of their own standards for evaluating teachers instead of all of it being dictated from the state, which, again, that's a good thing. Listen, I don't think teachers should have any of their evaluation based on the test. But bringing it down from 50% to 33% is a step in the right direction. It limits the classroom time used for all state and local required testing to be no more than 5% of classroom time. Right now, they can have unlimited amount of times being spent on this. Now it would be 5% of classroom time, which is about 45 hours every school year, which when you say that, like that 45 hours, that's a ridiculous number. But they're doing more than that now. So, again, not great, better. So it uses this year as a baseline for students for school improvement ratings. But if they use this, school districts who are struggling with the implementation can do a one-time, they can do an option to make this a diagnostic year. But if they do that, then they won't be able to be designated as a high-performing school, which means that they will lose some funding if they don't use this at least to get a grade. If they can use it as a baseline grade, but they have to get a grade. If they say no, I think our technology was so bad that I don't even want to see our grade, then they will lose some funding for that. But it also allows for them to sue AIR, who is the people that bring the technology that failed this year.
Not what we breathe.
Not what we breathe. It's the actual company that is implemented the technology that we saw fail. They would be allowed to go after AIR for liquidated damages for the test failures, and the school districts will be able to take a portion of the damages that they get from the company.
But not the air we breathe, though.
Not the air we breathe.
And not Earth, Wind, and Fire.
And not
No.
Earth, Wind.
It also eliminates the 11th grade language arts testing, and it makes the 11th grade PERT testing optional. They're saying that the 10th grade testing should be plenty. You're not really learning that much between 10th grade and 11th grade when it comes to academics. You're doing more of your vocational.
I learned a lot between 10th and 11th grade. I'm just going to say, I'll tell you right now. I learned a lot. Go ahead.
And
Was it more about anatomy than anything else?
A little bit.
All right. So this would eliminate those testings. It does require notification to parents that there is third grade retention, and it will allow the school districts to override the third grade retention and allow them to put in a portfolio method and things like that, so where a third grader wouldn't automatically fail, but they will automatically be put in remediation. So even though they may move on to fourth grade, if they don't score well on the test, or for all those parents that opt their kids out of the test in third grade, your child will be immediately put into remediation in fourth grade.
Well, you can look at my portfolio whenever you want, by the way. I'm just saying.
Is that an offer on the table?
I'm putting that out there, and you pick that up if you want.
Put your pants back on, Alex.
It was hot in here. He didn't know what to do.
It's climate change, man. It makes me all crazy.
So, listen, I'm not, this is certainly not the end of the fight on Common Core or on education or to protect our students and our teachers. This is really just the start of it. So we do have to keep the pressure on them. But, we can't we couldn't oppose the bill, because opposing it would mean that we would end up with the situation we have right now, which is worse than what this bill will do. So, we do have to say they did do something. We did push them in a forward direction. We just didn't, push them to get a more momentum.
They more stumbled than took a step.
Yeah, they kind of more pushed them, and then they just went.
Yeah. Like they like took 2 steps forward, then they took a step back after they.
And then fell.
And then just stopped right there and said, "I ain't moving.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm just doing it."
So we did get it. The bill will require independent verification of the psychometric validity of the Florida Standards Assessment.
We're on the air. Don't curse like that.
And it does eliminate some end-of-course exams for certain grades. So, like I said, better situation than we have today. Not great, but it's better.
Mud puddle in the desert.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Second Amendment. We talked about education. We talked about the voting part. What is going on with craft breweries, Danielle?
Well, I had something else to say, but okay. Well,
No, go ahead. No. If you had something else, go somewhere else.
No. It's all right. I did actually want to stay on education for a second, to let people know that we do have to keep pushing, because the standardized tests are really starting to get out of hand. And even in places like Atlanta, teachers are under so much pressure because of these evaluation processes and stuff that literally Atlanta teachers are cheating on the test to get their students better scores. And there was 11 teachers convicted of racketeering and other crimes of teaching because these standardized tests. And that's just going to spreading along the entire country if we don't do something and stop putting teachers under so much pressure.
Well, yeah, but those teachers were wrong for what they did in Atlanta, though.
Of course they were wrong, and I'm not saying
and they
that
all
it's
should be
right.
in jail for what they did, which they're all going to
Which
jail.
they are all going to jail. But when you tell a teacher that the way you provide for your family is all reliant on this one test, you're opening it up for teachers to be so absolutely terrified that they're going to lose their job and their livelihood that they're going to try to think of ways to not do that. Or they're going to not be teachers anymore, which many teachers have quit.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right. Now, tell us about beer.
Okay.
I like beer, by the way.
I know.
I love
The beer legislation is moving. It's on the Senate side. It's on its way to go to the Senate floor. It's Senator Latvala's bill, and this would allow for the 64-ounce growler. We would eliminate the ban on 64-ounce growlers because, honestly, the ban was just stupid. And the argument for keeping the ban was even more stupid. So we will see 64-ounce growlers. The bill does clean up some of the licensing issues where they will be able to stay in business doing exactly what they're doing without the threat of losing their license or lawsuits. They will not have to show that they're promoting tourism. That's been taken out. And they just have the license to be able to do what they want. Each brewer would only be able to get 9 licenses to sell beer, so that means that they could only have 9 retail stores. So that was kind of one of the prohibitions that was put in, which is an odd number. Like, why 9?
Why any?
but why? I mean, it's like 9.
Not 7.
Not 10.
9 shall be the number. Not 8. 10 is right out.
So it was just like 9. Like, seriously, like, who comes up with these numbers? But they just, I think they pick them out of a hat. Like, let's put 5 through 15 in a hat and see which one we pick.
Maybe they literally do throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. They put a number on some Play-Doh and throw it at the wall, and whichever one sticks.
All right, it's 9. So
hold on. Here's what they do. I know exactly what they do. So that same chamber that they were in before Rick Scott, there's one in the House, right, and one in the Senate. And so Christofouli comes in and goes, all right, man, we got to pick a number here, man. Got to pick a number. What are you thinking, man? And then, another guy goes out, 420. No, too many. But let's think about this. So 4 plus 2 is 6. And
flip it over, man.
Hold on. I got to do some Common Core math real quick. All right, so 4 plus 2 is 6. Florida is a state, so we go 3. All right, let's make it 9. What do you guys think? Sorry.
So we're now
they're all high up there.
The one bill that I did like for craft breweries was on the House side, but it was really it added in a lot of things for a lot of other industries. So you had like craft distilleries and then just retail stores. So it just had so much in it that everyone could find a problem with it. Which is why I don't like comprehensive bills, by the way, because everyone has an excuse to find a problem with it. But that one did move a little bit, so they will be able to bring that up. We will be able to, but I have a feeling that we're going to end up with a strike all to match Senator Latvala's bill, and then they'll just take up that one. So I think we're going to fix the licensing issues, but not do much of anything else. Well, except for a 64-ounce growler.
Well, and we do got to be on, and we have to go on the attack next year.
Yeah, no, we definitely do and write some legislation and get it done. And the problem is going to be the Senate. So please tell your senator that they're absolutely, just stupid when it comes to beer, because that was the problem this year. We had great bills that we couldn't get done in the Senate.
Exactly. All right, well, that's the show for the week, guys. I wanted to mention one thing, though. June 5th, 6th, and 7th is the Libertarian Party of Florida State Convention. If you've listened to this show and you have a problem with your government and you think that they're doing the wrong things, we would agree with you. We would also ask you to get involved, because that's going to have to be a key as well. So June 5th, 6th, and 7th, you can go to Newport Richey, Florida, so it's in Pasco County. It's a nice place, so just come on up. Go to our website, lpf2015.com. That's lpf2015.com. We have great speakers. Matter of fact, Gary Johnson, who was the 2012 candidate for the Libertarian Party of Florida, who is the most qualified guy that will be running in 2016 for president. And again, not an opinion, fact. He's the most qualified guy. Will be in attendance. He's going to be he's going to be the guest speaker for our Saturday night dinner. Ben Swan, who is the bomb, who's awesome and is probably one of the better looking guys that's out there.
Is he number 2 behind Stamos?
He's number 2 behind Stamos. Actually, Ben Swan might be above Stamos.
He's pretty.
We'll argue about that later. Though. I only have so much time here. Ben Swan's going to do it. Adam Kokesh is going to be there, and Tony Stiles is going to be there. But there's a lot of other free events as well that's been going on. So really looking forward to everybody showing up there. LPF2015.com. June 5th, 6th, and 7th, man. Be there. We'll see you next week.